Welcome back to Ram on the Rocks. This is a bonus podcast episode this month, so we'll be getting to this month. I wanted to talk about Xenoblade, and I'm going crazy because not a whole lot of other people I talk with have actually played through this and beaten it, but one particular individual obviously did. Could you introduce yourself, Cullen?
Hi, I'm Cullen, but before that, Wayne, I have a question for you.
I have an answer.
How's it poppin'?
Terrible. How about you?
Better than you, meaning terrific.
How did we feel about that? How did we feel about that whole shtick?
Al's my guy. If nothing else, Al is my guy.
I had that written down in my notes because I do want to talk about Al, and I specifically wanted to talk about that little thing. So I guess we'll get into that, but I'm glad that you started us off with that because I completely forgot to, because that was the plan.
Only thing in my notes. I have this big piece of paper, and all it says is "How's it popping?" Extra note added so you don't forget how the bit goes.
Good. All right. Cullen, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself with the audience? Who are you?
Yes, I can stop being funny for 1 second. Hi, hello everyone. So my name is Cullen. I write about games online to keep it vague, but to be more specific, I do video essays on YouTube, and I'm also a game reviewer. I wrote the 9 out of 10 review for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition that is currently on RPG Sites. Where I staff, I've been staffing on that site for like 8 years. That's crazy. Or 6, 7. Time is wrong and incorrect. Let's not think about that. But I'm a pretty big Xeno fan. I've been playing these games for a really long time. But Xenoblade Chronicles X was actually a bit of a blind spot for me because, like a lot of people, I played it when it first came out, went, ugh, this isn't like Xenoblade 1, and then I put the game down.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to ask, like, what exactly is your history with Xenoblade Chronicles as a franchise, and specifically, like X, and how you got acquainted with it versus what it was like playing it now. I
got Xenoblade 1. I think it was like one of the first gifts my girlfriend got for me when we started going out. She like found a copy of it, and I was like so blown away. It's like, this game's so expensive. What do you mean you just went to GameStop and got it? This was in, I want to say 2013, 2014. This was before Xenoblade, the series, existed. Like, X was on its way, but you know, we were still like, we didn't have a Xenoblade 2 or 3. Like, there was no concrete idea of what a Xeno game needed to be. At the time, I was just sad that, like, all the stuff I liked about Xenoblade 1, the story, characters, narrative focus that game had, was kind of seemingly tossed away with X. So I bought a Wii U just to play the game. I didn't end up liking it. A couple years later, Xenoblade 2 comes out, and at the time, I had not finished Xenoblade 1, but I played 2 because, you know, I wanted an RPG with my Switch. And despite some issues, I really like Xenoblade 2 a lot now. I think I had a hater era with it, but it's so hard to hate any Xenoblade game.
Literally the first time you and I interacted was me trying to defend Xenoblade 2 from you.
I think what did it for me is my favorite Xenoblade game is 3.
Okay.
So when you get your when you get your ideal perfect in every single possible way Xenoblade game, I think you can kind of go back to some of the entries you didn't like as much and be more appreciative of them, because I don't need anything else from this series. Like, I got everything I wanted, you know?
Well, it's just like, I think time and kind of looking at things from a standpoint of retrospect does a lot of games a lot of good, especially something as long form and as an RPG.
Yeah.
But 3 also did a lot to elevate what was already, like, 3 and Torna especially did a lot of really good stuff to elevate what was already there in the base of Xenoblade 2. I'm a Xenoblade 2 defender. I like Xenoblade 2 a lot. It's probably my least favorite Xenoblade game. It's got the most stuff I have to deal with and overlook.
Yes.
it feels like it's funny because from a gameplay standpoint, you kind of go back and a lot of people have kind of taken another look at the first Xenoblade and kind of recognized it's just like, oh, it really doesn't have all that great of a side quest structure. A lot of it is very, very basic MMO fetch quest heavy, which was by design.
That is a Wii game that is barely holding itself together.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to be too mean to it.
Well, the first one's my favorite. I think it is. I think it is still. I gotta go back and look at that at some point and just kind of kind of assess which one of these games did the best for me. But yeah, I guess I'm coming at it from a slightly similar perspective in the sense that X was also kind of a blind spot for me. I also bought that, I bought the collector's edition for that day one for the Wii U when it came out. And
you literally got those viruses in your PC just for you, just for your boy Takahashi.
I do remember plopping that into my laptop, but I don't think anything bad came from it. But then again, I also don't have that laptop anymore. But I remember thinking the little flash drive was really cool, and I remember around the time looking it up and just I was disappointed at the time because there was so little on it, because I was already planning on wiping the little soundtrack bits off of it and just using it as a standard flash drive, and then finding out it's a completely useless device. But I remember seeing somebody mod it to add LED lights in it and actually give it a good capacity.
Those flash drives are always useful, because I got one of those for Soul Hackers 2 and I wiped everything on it, and now I use that as a boot drive for Windows. So I recommend you do that the same next time you have to upgrade.
I might still upgrade that flash drive because I've got it. But I remember thinking the design was pretty neat. Of course, the design didn't mean anything to me at the time. I just thought, oh, that's kind of a cool little look for a flash drive. And now I know what that actually is. I do find it funny that they were throwing that stuff in there so early on. But yeah, I think I was going into college around the time, I was in community college when the game first came out, and so I was already pretty busy. And I think it's worth noting how I experienced the game and how much of it I experienced at the time, because I do think that does sort of affect my enjoyment of the new material that was added into Definitive Edition, because I didn't have the same level of just decade-long anticipation for very specific answers. I, of course, heard about what the cliffhanger was, and I heard
hard not to.
Oh yeah, for sure, especially in the Xeno community.
They love spoiling.
They really do, and the ending to X specifically was such a heavy topic of discussion, because it was just the ending of that game was infamous in the community for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, X is... I'm in a similar boat with you. I heard about it. I knew about it for so long. So going into Definitive, I had an idea in my mind of, okay, even though I'm not as emotionally attached to this game's story because I didn't play it, where are they going to go with this? Because this is probably one of the biggest RPG cliffhangers of all time. There were a lot of things that Definitive kind of needed to touch on if it were going to follow up 10 years of hype. And if anyone knows anything about the Xeno community, even vaguely, you'll know Chapter 13 of X is a bit divisive, to say the least.
It is a bit divisive, and I will say I understand why. But part of why I wanted to have this discussion, especially having now finished the 13th and new chapter twice, I actually just finished up another playthrough of it right before we got on for this discussion. I still really, really love it, and I kind of wanted to share what it is about it that worked for me, and not that I'm here trying to change people's minds and tell them they're wrong for not enjoying it or not reading it the same way, but more of just hey, if I can help anybody appreciate this in the way that I did, I would be really happy about it.
Yeah, I think as I played through it in the review period, it's worth mentioning. I had about a month and a half with the game before launch, so I didn't have any ideas going in what the new content was. I had no outside influence. I think overall I like it a lot. I can definitely see the points where people are not fond of it, and I think some of them I even kind of agree with a little bit, but I think ultimately what they're trying to do and what they do with the new content, once you kind of push away lingering expectations with how Chapter 12 ends, it's pretty good for what it is.
Yeah.
My issues kind of come from the fact that I feel like overall the new chapter is a bit rushed. You kind of get a sense that X Definitive did not get the same kind of like budget or love that some of the other Xenoblade expansions or X1 Definitive Edition got. At least a little bit.
I would agree. I would agree with that. And there are definitely certain tells that feel very like blatant. This was kind of a rushed job. Some of them are things that would normally bother me more. But like I ended up like kind of appreciating them within this particular project. I think before we get too deep into all of that, it's kind of worth explaining. First of all, like if you haven't put it together, giant spoilers. Like this is a spoiler cast.
Yes.
We're spoiling this thing rotten, not only like the main game, and not just Chapter 13, not just Xenoblade as a franchise. Like we're gonna be touching on stuff from the entire series, but also I also want to share like how this also gets into some of the deeper stuff in the Xeno games. This particular ending starts getting into stuff from across the entire Xeno franchise that includes Xenogears and that includes Xenosaga.
I'm excited to hear you touch on that a little bit, because you were telling me a lot of these things, because when I finished playing the game, I had to just like wipe my hands clean of it for a bit just to mentally reset, because I played too much of the game.
Sure.
And you were telling me this at a party I had actually, where I was a bit too drunk to like fully respond. But I think there's one tie, I believe you said to Xenogears, that really like kind of perked me up a little bit. So yeah, I'm interested in getting into that as well.
There's one that's like a blatant callback. I don't know if it's directly tying it in physically, if that makes any sense, but there's like one thing that is just like, that is unmistakable. If it's not supposed to be like that exact place, you're supposed to be thinking about that. But there's also a bunch of thematic stuff that just ties it back into those games, and in a way that I think treats them very seriously as more than just a cameo or a callback. Like it's like the fact that this kind of exists before is part of the point. So do you mind just kind of giving us a rough recap on what is the base concept of Xenoblade Chronicles X, and how does it leave off originally in Chapter 12?
Sure, you can fill in some gaps if I miss any, because it has been quite a while since I played Xenoblade X Definitive, like about a month or two.
And that's the thing I gotta remind myself, is that you've got a little bit more of a gap there just because you got to play it first.
Yeah, like by the time launch came around, I had been done with the game for about a week. But I think some of it's still fresh. I went back to do Act 3 of Chapter 13 a couple months after launch, so that's still a bit fresh. But basically, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Earth gets mega f***ed. Am I allowed to swear on these?
You're allowed to swear.
Massively f***ed, overwhelmingly super f***ed by aliens.
Sorry, I was just going to say, part of the reason I gave this podcast its own channel was just because I'm like, I don't swear on my main videos all that much, but I discovered really quickly with one particular friend, Cirrus, that trying to censor swears out of a podcast can get really annoying really fast. So yeah, no, you're free to speak.
Yeah, you cannot censor gamer guests from saying fuck words. I mean, like, if you want, I could always just do like a Like, but I'll leave that to you.
You're fine. You're fine.
But yeah, so mega ultra alien war fuck. Big fuck happens, massive fuck. Humans escape the Earth just barely on one ship. I think it actually said there were a bunch of ships that went out, but the one we follow is the ship that launched from LA on the White Whale. So after, I believe it was a couple years of running away, eventually the aliens catch back up. They shoot the ship down onto a planet called Mira. In that time, they start up a new civilization, literally called New LA, right in the center of Mira. And they find you eventually, because you're one of the people in the escape pods that kind of splinter off and crash. You've got no memory of anything. But you're recruited to join Blade, kind of like an idealized version of cops in New LA. Like which I do think it's very funny, not to get too political, but Xenoblade X is such a before 2016 game.
Although it does touch on some stuff, like
for sure.
So many problems in Xenoblade Chronicles X arise from a lot of Blades just being really inherently racist.
Oh yeah, like I think that's one of the things, and that's getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I think at its best, Xenoblade X is a fun little Star Trek RPG where you're seeing like all of these different cultures mingle around, and your job is to basically figure out how to best deal with it all. And there's a lot of like focus on these topics of like xenophobia going on. There's so much of the game has to do with racism, but I think ultimately it has a very optimistic kind of view on these kind of government bodies. Not like naively, but Xenoblade X as a whole is a game that does believe that like humanity, despite its issues, has the capacity for good. And it is admirable. But anyway, so after a while of being on Mira, working for Blade, exploring the world, trying to find new civilizations, you come to realize that everyone on Mira are actually, I'm trying to remember the exact terminology, like how
Mimiosomes.
Mimiosomes, yes.
Or mims.
Souls? Do they say if they have soul? I mean, I think that ends up being implied.
Well, that's more explored in the DLC. It's not. Yes. It's not so. So I will say that because I remember, while I did not finish the Wii U version of X when it first came out, I did get a decent ways in, and I enjoyed myself. I didn't drop it for lack of liking it. I dropped it because I was in college and I was busy. But I do remember sitting in bed with my Wii U tablet, experiencing that twist. Oh my god, it's so well done. It
is, because it's a very fun play on the amnesia kind of plot line, because you dive to go save someone from a blast that goes their way, and you look down and your arm is like shot off with like electric nodes and stuff firing out of it, and then everyone's like, "Oh, did we not tell you weren't real? Sorry."
It's funny too, because like, as far as I'm aware, you and maybe one other like main Blade, you are the only ones that really have amnesia after the crash on Mira, and it's just so obvious to them that they didn't even think to tell you that these are robotic replica bodies, by the way.
And so what the story ends up becoming is, like, after this revelation, is them saying like, okay, so all of our actual body, like this kind of gets all twisty a little bit. So I know like what it actually is, I think, but I might mix some things up to get there. But basically, we're trying to find the Lifehold, which houses every single person. And the Lifehold only has so much power. So in New LA, there's a big tower that has like a number that's kind of going down on it. That number is the power on the Lifehold. So we've got a ticking clock. Everyone is basically, if this goes down to 0, we're all fucked. So as we kind of continue to develop from here, we have a lot of different factions trying to destroy it. we also find a lot of other species that are also on Mira, and we get this sense as time goes on that, hey, something's not right with this planet. Which is very fun, that it kind of draws attention to the fact that because you're playing a video game where the most easy way to convey this story is just have everyone speak the same language. Makes sense. But they draw attention to the fact like, hey, why do all these aliens speak English? Isn't that kind of weird?
I do. That's an interesting thing, because that is one of the questions that never got answered in the main game. I don't think it was answered in the DLC.
It was not.
Yeah, it wasn't, but I do think that there is enough information to extrapolate an answer from that, even if it wasn't clearly spelled out.
Yeah, and I think, well, we kind of end up with a lot of mysteries of Mira left in that state after Xenoblade X Definitive Edition, but I'm fine with the fact that there's a lot open to interpretation. I think that's actually good and healthy for a good story, and the Xeno series is not shy to that at all. So that is fine. But yeah, so after a while, like I'm skimming through a whole bunch. You got a whole bit with Lao.
Yeah.
He betrays people, you know, whatever. There's some the ganglion are like, we're bad, and then you beat them and they go, we're dead. And then eventually, as you kind of pool together a really new thriving society of all these different cultures and races of like species of different aliens start working together, like New LA starts as this very human like driven society that very quickly like blossoms out to become just this place where all these other people who find themselves like stranded on this planet can come together and like try to like find community in one another. It's really cool. At the end of the original Xenoblade X content, literally after the credits, you get a cutscene where Elma, who you do find is not actually like, I said I didn't even mention her.
Oh yeah, she's like almost the face of the game.
She's
to a
the
degree.
main character.
Yeah.
Before Al shows up, she's kind of the main character for like actual, because you're a silent protagonist.
Yeah.
So basically the main character reveals like, hey, I was actually a Xeno the entire time. I came from another planet. We all got destroyed and we fled to Earth. They find the Lifehold and find out that everyone has been dead the whole time. Like the Lifehold was flooded. It's not functional. There's no power.
Yeah.
We don't know actually what has been keeping these people, like these MIMs, alive the whole time. And the thing that I think the last word they literally end on is, there's something with this planet.
Yeah, there's something about this planet is what Elma says. And it's just like your entire journey and the entire like power grab between you and this hostile alien race is to find the Lifehold that broke off from the human ship at the beginning of the game, because that's where your real bodies are, is how it is explained. Now, you do find out to a degree at the end that it's not quite that simple. It's more of like the information, like the biometric makeup of the human bodies is what's in the Lifehold, and it can be regrown in this like plasma pool that they have.
They can basically like 3D print you a new body.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is, and your and the data of your consciousness is being held in a mother computer in the Lifehold, and the concept that you're given is that you are controlling the MIMs remotely from like your mind inside this like giant mother computer. A lot of people thought that it was their real bodies in stasis there that were like controlling them remotely, but it is revealed at the end that no, their real bodies are gone, but they can be recreated.
Which is fun. I think it's a really cool way to end that story, especially because in that idea of, or at least like even broaching on the topic of like, does this make us like real people? Are we like human still? It's like, and the answer I think that kind of gives is ultimately like, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like,
it's also such a Xenosaga discussion.
Oh yeah, which I haven't played Xenosaga. It's the only Xeno thing I have not touched yet. I tried to play one and I was bored, so
I should state, just so there's no confusion, I will be talking about Gears and Saga. I have not played through those games. I've read up on them. I'm familiar with the content and the themes therein. But if I do misstep on certain details and everything, I should say, like, I have not played them myself, although I really, really, really want to now.
Disclaimer, we are not experts.
No, we are not.
I have played Gears, and I really recommend Gears, but I will say wait for that new translation, the fan translation that's being worked on.
I'm probably going to do both. I've got a copy of Gears, so I'm probably going to play that, and it's like, what, 60 hours?
40, 60, something around that range.
I can play through that twice. I don't give a crap.
You have more free time than me, my friend. I respect it.
The Digimon reviews have changed my perception of what constitutes a long game. 40 hours feels paltry in the face of Digimon World 3, which I sunk 200 hours into.
Damn fair. But I've played Gears. I like Gears a lot. But I, again, haven't touched Saga.
I can't wait to talk about the Gears stuff.
I'm excited to hear what you kind of picked up on that, because Xenoblade 3 is already a game where it's like we made Xenogears at home.
Yeah.
Because for those not familiar, which I don't know how you would not be if you're a Xenoblade fan, but Xenogears is owned by Square. Xenosaga is owned by Bandai, and Xenoblade is Monolith's own property. Like they have ownership of it. And you could maybe say that Nintendo owns it, but Nintendo owns Monolith, so you know how. Yeah. So a lot of the Xenoblade series is kind of reiterating on old ideas and kind of teasing a connection to those, even though they're not explicitly allowed to make those connections.
They get more explicit in the DLC for 3, where they just straight up name drop a character and show off like a logo from Xenosaga. But
they're coy about it.
They are fairly coy about it. But I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting you.
No, yeah, you're good. That's kind of all I had to say. So like what X does in a couple ways, I imagine is similar, but I was not able to make those exact connections myself. I think for me, I like the main story of Xenoblade X. I don't really love it. What I think the parts of Xenoblade X I really like, though, are the side quests. Like, the side quest writing is all really fun stuff, and that's also, I think, why I ended up liking the epilogue more than a lot of people. Do we want to get into the epilogue content then, or is there anything else kind of about the main game you wanted to go over?
I think it's fair enough to go ahead and get into it. It's just, it is worth noting, this was a 10-year wait for fans that really loved Xenoblade X. Xenoblade X is a very different game when you're just comparing it against the rest of the series, whereas the numbered entries are focused so heavily on their narrative. And for the most part, the story of Xenoblade X is kept fairly simple, and it feels very sci-fi. It feels very Star Trek. I like that you made that comparison there. But it is, the goals are pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. It's not hard to understand until you get to the epilogue, when it starts getting super Takahashi. It's interesting. Yeah. Because
I think when you finish chapter 12, the things on your mind are like, okay, Mira and the Lifehold. That's what I want to know more about.
Yeah.
Chapter 13 doesn't really give you that. It kind of does, but its focus is entirely like elsewhere. We were talking about this as well, but in my opinion, I cannot say with 100% certainty that this is where they wanted to take X 10 years ago. I think they probably had some ideas that they were able to carry over, but this did seem kind of like this was the best we could do with what we got. Like, we either got to, like, we have to do something to wrap up the story, or we're going to kind of use a couple lingering things and just set it up for their next game.
Yeah.
Like, really, we won't know until the next game is either X2 or Xenoblade 4.
Yeah.
But, sorry, go.
I was going to say, I agree to an extent. I actually do think that there are a lot of ideas here that, and I went and I started picking and pulling some other stuff that it starts connecting to, and I started realizing how many things tie into it, and it feels premeditated in a lot of ways. And I think there's honestly one thing that a lot of fans really dislike about the DLC that I think is probably how the second game was going to start if they got to make a successor, and that was the destruction of Mira. I fully believe that if there was a Xenoblade 2, it would have started with Mira getting destroyed.
Yeah, I definitely. So yeah, that's the big thing. Mira's gone. Mira gets complete. Not even we've got to. They're gonna blow up New LA. Mira is gone.
It is, yeah, it's not even destroyed, it is snuffed out of existence. The
universe it exists in does not exist anymore.
That's the other thing, holy crap. But, I've got reason to believe a lot of that was honestly, on the scorecard a long time ago, but we'll get further into that. The setup for Chapter 13 is, you start seeing these things start to happen, like parts of the world on Mira start to disappear. And a lot of fans definitely felt a big way about this because the game is about Mira. The game is about exploring that planet, that world, and it's like charting your territory on it and making a new home out of it. And yeah, bringing in all the alien races and everything are also a huge part of that. Finding a new home in such an alien and hostile world, I kind of question how long humanity would really survive and their capacity to thrive on a planet that is so incredibly everything can kill you.
Yeah.
But that was also part of the hopeful message of it, is just we're gonna rise above, no matter where we're at, we'll make it work.
We will persist.
Yeah.
It is a story about ultimately, despite humanity's issues, despite our tendencies, we do persist, and we have the capacity to help our fellow man make it through the toughest situations.
Mm-hmm.
It's that idea where, no matter what, for better or worse, because, you could very easily, and I think even characters bring this up, talk about, kind of humanity's role at, in Mira from a perspective of colonizing it.
Yeah.
It's why Lao's the best character in the game. Because he's the only one who talks about these ideas, and it's ultimately it's the story is Lao, you are right, but what could we do? So it's an interesting conflict, to be sure.
Did the original game end off with the shot of Lao on the beach? Was that something that was there? Did it really? Oh god.
Yes. That's another thing. Let's go into that.
That's probably the big thing where I'm just nah, I get the disappointment. That's the one thing I can't really defend that much, if only because of how it existed originally. Lao is an incredibly interesting character. He's a fellow Blade, and at one point he becomes an antagonist as he sides with the alien army that is trying to destroy humanity. And the reason being is because he lost his entire family.
They were not allowed to be given a spot on the Ark either.
Yeah, during Project Exodus, which was the evacuation attempt of Earth, you find out during the final acts of the original Xenoblade X that oh wow, only the rich and wealthy were actually given a place to survive. It was the elite class were the ones that were ever given a chance to live, and everybody seen as lesser were just left behind. And I remember, dude, that is such a gut punch, because you're oh, but I know all of these people. How many people do I know that were part of making that decision? It gets you thinking. I love that.
It's very good. But again, ultimately, and Lau is convinced of this as well, it is better, like, it's not a good situation, but we can't just throw all of these, like, remaining lives away.
Yeah.
Which is a really conflicting, like, thing. Like, that's, even as the player, I was like, oh, that's bittersweet. Like, because Lau, like, you know, going as far as he did, it was, like, that it was a lot, but, like, Lau's not wrong.
I think,
like, it's genuinely not fair that all of that happened, and, like, how, like, the remaining government of NLA is kind of just hiding that.
And I honestly don't think he would have come to the conclusion to help protect humanity if it wasn't for Lin just being the heart of, like, what's left of the human spirit.
Yeah, and it's also because Xenoblade X is a game where it asks you to make choices quite often, like your own moral dilemmas. Like, you get to actually make choices that like, you know, actively affect the little stories that, you know, you're taking part in.
Do you want to elect to cut the wrong wire or connect the wrong wires and have people die in a helicopter crash on the way back to the city?
Do you want to go to an alien like invaded place and tell a girl, you're probably not infected, it's whatever, oh no, you're dead? But it's a very strong choice that, like, at the final moments when, you know, Elmo's like, I'll fucking kill Loud, like, I'm gonna blow your brains out, like, Lin and you go up and be like, no, like, we can't, we have to be better than this.
It's so strange. I don't know what it is. This is, like, one of the games where I feel like I felt the most, like, connected with an Avatar character. Just a complete silent protagonist. They don't speak. They're however you designed them. But it's just like I completely accepted my Avatar character as, like, her own person, and like, no, like, she's like an actual active, like, part of this story.
It's a good usage of a silent protagonist. A lot of people will say that silent protagonists are terrible and we can never use them, but no, like, there are plenty of ways to make silent protagonists work. Like, it comes down to, and I think this is overall about Xenoblade X in general, but when it's people not being able to distinguish between different or bad.
Right.
And Xenoblade X is just very different. It has its goals entirely elsewhere. And I think the choice to make it that MMO style silent protagonist does a lot to kind of add to the, like, a lot of the side quest writing, because I do not think you would have as good of a game if you could not make those little moral dilemmas in those side quests. And that's one of the things I think why a lot of chapter 13 works for me, because so much of chapter 13 is just dedicated to helping out lingering people who are still on Mira and trying to get everybody safely out of there. Like, 2 of the chapters are just going around helping people. And I was just thinking, you get it.
You're talking in the epilogue?
Yeah, in chapter 13.
Oh my god, I have so much to say about that, because it's the core of this game. Like, it is the point. It's not only the core of this game, I honestly think that chapter 13 fully understands and capitalizes on the actual themes discussed throughout the main game and brings them home. I'll have to get deeper into that.
Yeah, there's parts. It makes it seem like I don't like it, but it's really just I have a lot of conflicting thoughts on it. But I do think, because a lot of people were, like, upset. It's like, it's so boring. I just want to, like, do the new world, do the new content. But if they're going to blow up Mira, you have to spend a good amount of time saying goodbye.
You need your victory lap.
Exactly. And it's a lot. And I'm so glad that they understood that the victory lap you needed to have was just going around, talking to people. Like, there's a whole main quest line of chapter 13 where you're trying to convince, I think it's like a Nopon grandma, that
a Momo.
A Momo, that it's better to, like, it's like, hey, I know that, like, you know, your husband's passed away, and you might not think, like, you think you're going to be a burden, but your family wants you on the arc. Like, even if you don't have that time left, it's better to spend that remaining time with the people you love than just dying
and
for nothing.
That feels so poignant because of Lao. And Lao's whole deal was like, we left so many people behind, and we picked and chose like who got to survive, and we chose like the people that were on the top, the people that were like, you know, had the most money or were the most quote unquote successful. Stuff like that. And then here's this little mission where you're just like, let's go find this little old lady and try to convince her that she is not unimportant and that she is not a burden, and that it will be a bigger blow to us if she doesn't come with us to survive than if we just leave her behind and she ceases to be.
And honestly, I think that like little quest was one of my favorite moments of the epilogue.
Dude, not only that, but they I don't know if you caught it. That area Sylvalum already had like one of my favorite like music tracks in the game for like an overworld area, and they added this adorable, like beautiful, like piano like version of that just for that moment.
I don't remember it, but I'll probably have to just like go back and look at that.
It was really pretty.
Yeah, I'm trying not to have us like scattershot all over the place. Yeah, there's so much to talk to about chapter 13.
It is I think like understanding Lao, and while he was kind of an antagonist towards the end of like the main game, at the last minute he did like turn and like he did help you survive, and there is a shot. Yeah, there's a shot that they leave the game on with, and they put it in the trailers for Definitive Edition of
Lao on a beach.
Lao waking up on a beach, and that kind of brought the question, was just like, did Lao survive? Did he get transported somewhere? And that I kind of have a little bit of an issue with, because it really did feel like they were marketing it in a way that they were trying to describe, oh, here's where Lao ended up.
Yeah, so in the original, that is the last shot of the game. That's where you left off. And I think there's enough you could probably think in your mind to be like, because Lao fused with, what's the name of that ganglion leader, that like really boring antagonist?
Luxor,
yeah. Am I alone in this? I felt nothing about Luxor, at all.
I was disappointed by Luxor, if only like he had funny moments. I love the one part where like, I don't remember her name, but she like takes over their giant war machine, and she's just screaming. It's like, why does everybody around here like they can just go do whatever the hell they want? Like, I loved that, but I was more interested because he kept like referring to this great one. He kept referring to this like higher being, that essentially sounded like it was their deity, their god, and I was just like, I want to know what that is. I want to know what that thing's deal is.
And let's definitely put a pin in that, because I want to circle back to, we have to. Like, that's like, we're going to end up there some point.
I've got a lot of notes about Void.
Oh, yeah. But, so, the game ends, and it's like, okay, so, and you're thinking maybe, like, the fusion of Luxor and Lao allowed Lao to come back in some way. Like, there's a lot of things you could, like, think of and extrapolate, especially when you're left off on, there's something with this planet. Yeah. And you're like, did Mira bring him back? Is he fused with Mira? Like, what could have happened with that? And they even, like, in the announcement trailer for Definitive, have that scene in there as a way to be like, guys, you're gonna figure out what's going on with Lao, and to just rip the band-aid off of this discussion. You find out it's basically Lao crossing over to the other side.
He's dead.
He is dead. That scene is Lao basically in purgatory.
The beach is a layover for heaven, essentially. And I say heaven, I actually literally mean like biblical heaven, I think. We'll get into that. But I'm irritated by that, and I don't blame a lot of fans that were really upset by it, because I agree in the standpoint that it's just like that feels like you were really baiting something that really didn't go anywhere.
That's one of the things where I was like, okay, I do not think you guys intended to do this with Lao.
Which is funny, because like, I'm happy with where he ended up. I just don't like that it was like portrayed like that. I honestly would have been more upset with him surviving, if I'm being perfectly honest.
But like I definitely feel like I feel like you could have done something with him surviving. Like it might not have even been like he survives exactly in that specific way.
Sure.
But it definitely feels a bit cheap. You said I'm okay with where they ended up with it. I just don't know like how they did it. And that's kind of some of my thoughts about a lot of chapter 13. Like I don't mind the story they told. There were just like the Lao thing where I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's it.
It's like I feel like that would have played off so much better if that shot had never existed in the original game.
Yeah, they probably like it came back to bite him in the ass.
Especially since he's approached by a cloaked figure, and then you see who the cloaked figure is, and the fact that they're cloaked at all makes no sense.
Not at all.
And it's just because you could tell that they either didn't have a character model at the time, or the person that approached him was not what they originally intended.
And it like even in the marketing, because the person is Al, like
yeah.
And it's a weird way to. I'm trying to remember exactly how they did it. It's like, so Al is a character that shows up in chapter 13. He was the ace pilot of the Ares during the invasion of Earth, up until the crash landing of the White Whale on Mira. Because Al has been essentially trapped between universes.
I don't know how everybody else feels about this. I love everything that they do with Al and like where he's been this whole time.
I love Al. The bit where Al has been in between universes, I like that as well. I do think that the bit where he was like, I went to all these universes, and then looks at the camera, I saw where Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 happens, and then goes back to what he's doing.
I felt weird about that. I was just like, why even show us that?
Because we knew.
Yeah.
We knew it was gonna happen. Like, you don't go revisit Xenoblade X after your franchise has now become one of the biggest things Nintendo does.
Yeah, and to be fair, they do also tie relevance to the other Xeno games back to like a really important event in this as well. Like something that happened in a different Xenoblade games universe affected why any of this is happening to begin with.
Oh, for sure. And that's a much better way to have done it. Like, the way I feel about that is, okay, either keep it subtle or go all the way in. Yeah. The whole, like, oh, look, I saw some PNGs of... Oh, no, he was the PNG, and he saw some MP4s of other Xeno cutscenes going on. I was like...
That was the thing where I was just like, this feels like such a budgeted decision because you didn't have the time or the resources to put together like an actual cutscene for this. At the same time, it worked better for me here than it would elsewhere, and I think a part of it was just because he was in this realm between, and he was occupying the Rift, which is already such a like an alien and strange concept that should be hard to depict visually. So it felt surreal, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, a lot of the new like lore cutscenes in X kind of use this style. And it's a bit of a bummer because I think Future Redeemed just has, like, Future Redeemed had money put into it.
Oh, Future Redeemed was a big deal. None of them...
Future Redeemed had some budget, and this, does not in comparison.
Yeah, no extra story ever quite hit the level of Torna. I hope people aren't turning on that popularity just yet. I still love Torna. I consider it its own game in the franchise, and it's one of my favorites. But it's like, yeah, I was fine with it here just because it does feel like it fits like the strange ethereal nature of like where Al was in that period of time. It's worth he was there at the last stand at Earth as it was getting destroyed, and he was fighting off one of the factions of aliens that were warring, and he just disappeared. like when the white whale did, and they weren't sure what happened to him.
I thought they mentioned that he was on the white whale a little bit to and from the destination. I thought there was like one scene where someone mentioned like, yeah, on the white whale you would talk to us about like, because there's shots of him, because like New LA, the city, existed in the white whale and people were there and they were like, you know, they actually lived there for a while before it crashed into Earth.
Oh, I may have misunderstood. I took that as that was back on Earth, like at the hangar. I could have misunderstood like where all that took place.
Ultimately, I don't think that part matters. Like the specifics
really.
of that doesn't matter really.
He's the big hero. He disappeared. Everyone thought he was dead, and he shows up at the beginning of chapter 13, and he's not dead. Neither are the other scary faction of the aliens that were responsible for Earth's destruction.
Yes, and so we now have a new antagonist force called the Ghosts.
Okay, so I was so excited about this. So did you ever get the collector's edition for the Wii U?
No, but my friend did, so I've seen bits and pieces. Was it in an art book or something?
It was in the art book.
Okay.
So they had them by name. They actually called it like a destroyer class ghost or something like that. And they depicted not just the ships that you see in the opening Wii U cutscene, but the ghosts, like as you see them and fight them in chapter 13, like that's in the art book. So like that part at least was planned to some degree, and it was cool because when X starts, you see planet Earth and you see two alien factions warring over it, and my take on it had always been that we just got caught in the crossfire of a completely unrelated war, in a very Transformers kind of style, and chapter 13 goes to great lengths to explain that is not the case at all, and both factions hate each other and us. And not only want us dead, they need us dead. Like, I legitimately think that there's a level of fear from both sides that were trying to destroy us. They go into that with the ganglion to a degree. The ghosts, I think, are such a cool concept. They're also just the Gnosis from Xenosaga.
It's also nice to have an enemy faction that doesn't just job like the ganglion does all the time.
Yeah.
Like an actual threat, because the ganglion are kind of like, they end up coming across as like incompetent buffoons.
I do wish there's a moment like when the ghosts are first introduced, when chapter 13 starts and you start seeing these dematerialization, the DMAT events. They're just these orbs of nothingness, of darkness, giant spheres of a black fog that start taking away bits of the world.
And they're like, yeah, you get it? They're like, you get it? Do you get it?
Did you play yes. Xenoblade 3?
Yeah, I was like, yes, Xenoblade X. I played Xenoblade 3. Yes, I did.
I actually think that there's a tie-in there, actually. I think that the black fog that makes up the DMAT events in X is the same black fog that the antagonists use in 3. And that particular universe, as it was formed, was knocking at the door of unleashing the ghosts.
Oh yeah, it's. I think they said, well, like, because from what Al was seeing in the, like, he saw the events of the other 3 games happening. So I'd be very curious if like these 2 universes exist parallel, if like their timelines match up, because it seems like when Al's like looking at both, he sees that the events of 3 already happened. So I'm not sure if, although I guess, I wonder, I'm just gonna start shoot the shit, just get stuff out of my brain. I wonder if it's trying to imply that when the worlds came back together in 3 somehow, that's what caused Mira to start destabilizing.
I would love that.
Or if Al coming back, like making it out of that, like being able to re-enter his universe from that other one, caused that kind of destabilization that allowed the Ghost and the DMAT event to like start like firing off.
I personally think it's the latter, and I'll get into why. I do,
think
however,
it could probably be both. But like,
it could be both. I do
probably more the latter.
I do also think it's interesting. I remember somebody. I apologize. I don't remember who it was. There was a video that I was watching, or I guess more like listening to, that pointed out that the little images and the visuals that you see from the other Xenoblade games are all of couples. They're all of main couples. There's a theme of love there, and literally what Al uses to power the Ares, his mech, is love. And I know that sounds cheesy. This is one of the only stories that could make me take that as a concept seriously.
It's fine. It's Al. He deserves it. He's got aura.
He does. I personally really like the way that comes together here. But I do think
that's also a very mecha thing. Like
it is. Yeah. Oh, like honestly, Chapter 13 is very Part 2 of Gurren Lagann.
Yeah, it's because like there's so much mecha, even like the stuff before Gurren, because like Gurren is a homage like to the genre.
Yeah.
And that genre had like existed and thrived before it. Like I'm not a Gurren hater. I like Part 2 of Gurren.
Oh, we literally went to go see that together in theaters. Like.
Yeah. But like, and that's not to say like Gurren is lesser for that. But like Xenoblade X as well has a lot of respect to like mecha, and so much of the best mecha out there is about that kind of sense of like understanding one another, loving one another, coming together above like all this like war. And it's why I'm such a big fan of the genre. It's like why I'm a fan of the Gundam series that are good.
Yeah.
Like it's there's a lot of that here, and it's like as someone who is, because you could definitely tell when there's a Xenoblade X fan who is a mecha fan or not. Like, if they've done their homework on the stuff that's influenced it, I feel like those people are probably going to be fine with the new stuff Xenoblade X Definitive does. If you're kind of just like, that was your only taste of mecha ever, and you might have thought some of the like messages about community were cringe, then yeah, you're not going to like X Definitive because you're a cringe.
I did also want to say, because I do apologize, because I've been very bad at like keeping a tab on this. We've already been talking for about an hour, and I'm happy to keep going for as long as possible, but I also don't want to hold up too much of your day.
I'm yapping.
Okay.
It's all good. If we want to move to the next topic on your list, though, that's fine. But basically, to kind of get into the real meat, you help a lot of people out. Mm-hmm. You get a new ship that has all of the different species that live in New LA together. You are very thorough in getting as many kind of people as possible. There's even a whole event where you're helping a guy who went AWOL gather material, like life materials of Mira.
Yeah,
so that the life of Mira can somehow live on wherever you go next.
You're gathering like the biometric data and like carrying it with you, just so that like there's some part of the planet that's not dying and that you're preserving. Which again, I think goes into the major theme of connection that this that this new chapter is all about. I honestly really like that part. I remember hearing somebody say that they really hated that just because it's just like, oh, you're just going to a bunch of like pinpoints in the world, and I'm just like, yeah, but that's the game. Like that's the point of all of this.
In a sense, I'm like, my mind goes, yes, they saw a golden opportunity to reuse some content and they took it, but they used it well. I think it was a very smart idea to do it that way.
I agree. And I think that it was smart to like, and it's again, going back to a Momo, where it's just like, this is, we're on the clock. There's a very limited amount of time before these, the dematerialization of this world, before it just like takes over and the whole place just stops existing. But we're going to take the time to just try to get out as much as we can. It feels to me like humanity directly learning from Lao, and it feels like them being like, this is what set Lao off, this is the part of humanity that really died, and this is the part of humanity that Lao gave us back that we're trying to take seriously. No man left behind. That's a big core part of what Chapter 13 is.
Absolutely. And listener, I have a question for you. Did you leave Mia alone in that prison to die? Did you let her die?
I did the first
with Mira. I did too, because I didn't know she was in prison.
It's so hard to find her. Like, it's because it doesn't show her anywhere on the map or anything. Like, I had to Google like where the hell she was. I don't know if I found your like guide on it, but like I had to check some guide on how to like actually go figure out where the hell she was.
Like in in the like main map of Mira, or do you mean like in the stuff after?
Like in the main map of Mira, like because she's just hidden away behind like a complete, like a really ass like mission. But
so there is a long set of side quests you need to do to like get her. I think there's some people who are very like completionist about the game who probably just eventually like got the quest for her.
Yeah.
I somehow avoided all of those because I had to go back and get her because she was the only character I did not recruit, and I had to make a guide for some of the like chapter 13 act 3 stuff. So I had to get her in my party before that, and I like her quest line is like 2 to 3 hours long of just quest, and you have to do like fight one of the worst bosses in the entire game just to like get to her. It's crazy, but like you better have done it anyway, because don't leave my girl Mia dying on Mira alone.
I will say after finally like completing like the main game, and like this morning when I was kind of going back just so I could experience it one more time, thankfully this time I had actually gone back and I had rescued everybody. I've done every affinity mission, I have done every heart-to-heart, everybody is at max affinity. Like to me that just felt like such a core part of what the ending is about that I was just like, I can't leave that unfinished. So
there are definitely people I just didn't bother hanging out with though. Like it's like, yeah, you could like come to like the new world, like I'll like save you, but like, you know, we do not hang.
But those are the main missions that you're kind of set on, is just like getting everybody ready to leave. I also like that the White Whale 2, the new escape ship, is a like refitted and reissued version of the Manon ship, which the Manon are the first like alien race that you recruit over to New LA. A grand majority of the other alien races that you get to have as part of like your crew are completely optional, and you can totally miss them if you just don't do all the normal missions, which is why I think they're not fully represented in like cutscenes and stuff in chapter 13. It's something I'm a little disappointed about, but also due to the format of the game, you cannot avoid that.
Yeah, and also I think it's worth it for me to kind of not have them there, if only because it drives home the point that it's like, these people would not be in New LA if you don't put in the effort to like get them there.
Right.
Like so much of Xenoblade X is like, do the side content, like put in the effort, don't do the bare minimum, and make the world a better place yourself. And it's something that I feel like people really just hate in RPGs with like side content that's so like where people say like, oh, so much of the story is in the side content, and that's stupid. If they wanted me to care, it should be in the main content. And it's like, no, the game is trying to tell you to put an effort in your life and make connections and get off your ass.
Yeah, it's what this game is about. You get what you put into this title, and
exactly, yeah.
I feel like that fits so well with just like the nature of what like Xenoblade Chronicles X is about, and that's like discovery, and that's the work putting into like finding the beauty in this world, and like you know, finding hey, I don't know, I think you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like, if nothing else, like this kind of story is about so much, but it is ultimately trying to say your life is as good as the effort you put in to make it good.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot just be complacent. If you do that, like, your life's going to be hollow. You need to go out there and actually strive to make the world a better place. Because without it, like, you're not going to, like, nothing will ever get better. And it's great. And it's why I'm so glad that chapter 13, if it were going to pull anything else, not like related to like, you know, the mysteries of Mira, it's that like thematically it gets what the quiet part of what Xenoblade X was saying. and it just takes that and then turns it to to 11.
I do think that there is like a pretty big chunk of like the mysteries of Mira are kind of explained in sort of one fell swoop to a degree. Now, I personally found it a fulfilling answer, but that mileage is going to vary.
Let's just get into that then, yeah.
Yeah. So Al, after disappearing, at some point protecting the white whale, he just shows up again. When the DMAT events start showing up, when the ghosts start showing up, so does he. And he's piloting this amazing looking mech called the Ares. I think it's the Ares Prime, which is housing these 6 cores, which, believe it or not, are among the most important things in the multiverse. And he explains at one point that, like, you know, his time spent between, like, disappearing and showing up again here were in that realm between the dimensions, that rift, the abyss. And lo and behold, he shows up back on Mira. So do the ghosts. So does our main antagonist, which I'll get into soon. So do the Nopon. So do all of these other alien races that I do not think are indigenous to Mira. So I think all of these relics, like those giant rings that are just out in Oblivia, all of these different things and all of these parts of these different cultures, it's because you are at a nexus point. You are at the place that meets, like, it's almost like a doorway to the rift. I think that Mira exists within that place, within that door, and I think that it is the amalgamation there. I think that its connection to the rift, because Al even goes on to say that, like, souls of all of these other people are housed there. That's why he's able to speak with Lao. It's almost like an afterlife, or if you've played Xenosaga or you like your Jungian psychology, the collective unconscious.
Yeah.
And I think that I would honestly go as far to say, this is me just being, like, theory boy right now. I honestly think that Mira existing at that nexus point and pulling all of that stuff in between different universes, because I think it's also implied that Elma's original world and universe and Earth's original world and universe are both gone now, and I do not think that Mira exists on the same plane of reality that Earth did. And I think that
I'd be a bit curious how that kind of ties with, like, the main trilogy timeline universe as well, because I've always kind of thought that Mira is the nexus point. It is where the lost souls almost go, like when they don't have anywhere else to go. So the idea of, like, yes, X is still connected to, like, the original trilogy and, like, Klaus's wacko experiments.
Yeah.
And just when they escape the consequences of what was going on there, when they went to Mira, they kind of just splintered off into their own universe or traveled so far away that, like, they escaped, like, Earth. I think now, while I would have liked, I think, them to go into it a little bit more, I think that's one of the things about the chapter 13 is some of the more, like, high concept, cool stuff about how, like, the universe stuff works. It doesn't really get a lot of room to breathe, but I think there is enough there to kind of pull from interpretation and, like, implication of what it's doing.
And they do try to call it out to a degree, because Al even goes as far as to say that, like, the construction of this rift, or of the abyss, is very similar to how the Lifehold was designed. And I think that the Lifehold was designed by, like, that was something that Elma helped them construct, and she heralded from a race that had a lot of documentation and a lot of old blueprints and ideas from an ancient alien race that, like, holds connections to the DNA of humans, of Elma's people, and I think that the Lifehold was designed after it. It was designed after those, and maybe the Sumerians knew something about how that collective unconscious was constructed, and I think that that's what it's based on, and that's how, like, it was originally supposed to work. The closeness to that nexus point, I think, also kind of ties the souls of all of these these different races together. There's a really interesting alien race of insectoids called the shoot, what is it? I had it written down here.
I also forget them. Dang, what is that?
I've got like 7 different pages of notes here. I'm not letting this go. I need the actual name. Okay, well, anyway, there's these bug people, and they share a sort of like hive mind under this entity called the Ova.
Oh wait, Orphean.
The Orphean, thank you.
Yeah.
And there's a side mission, like, is somewhere in the middle of the game, where one of them calls out the fact that he feels a presence inside the MIMS that's very similar to the Ova. And I think that's him feeling that connection to the Rift. So that's like, hey, that might be me stretching things, but I felt like that's such a cool like little detail that you could kind of make a connection to, that like, oh, maybe part of this really was planned the whole time.
Yeah, I think that like what Xenoblade as a series is really good at is that they have these like ideas, like something as simple like that ultimately boils down to, of course the MIMS have souls. Yes, without question, because like a soul is just the idea of a consciousness, which all of them have. They clearly like have souls, and then it's like there's enough like ideas of like lore in the background to support this, where your mind can just race with thinking of how it all works. And I think it is commendable the direction Chapter 13 goes with this idea on how to explain like, yeah, how does this whole like MIM soul connection thing work?
There was also a connection that I noticed at one point. This is so stupid. Thinking about the DMAT events and how they're portrayed and like how the ghosts all come out of them. In the main battle theme, Black Tar, there's a collection of lyrics that go, "On a sea of dark matter, every minute matters, living while other lives shatter, seeing ghosts scatter as they pour out."
I would not be surprised if they made that during the beginning of development when the ghosts were supposed to be in the game.
Yeah.
And then that kind of just didn't end up going anywhere, but still very cool the same.
I love stuff like that. I was going towards a much cleaner point about all of this, and I got lost somewhere along the way. Let's see. We got Al. We got the sort of concept of the collective unconscious. I know that's not the name that they use in the game, but that's what it is. I love this sense of like that kind of concept of unity. I love that they bring back all of this like. A lot of this is just our connection to each other, because that feels like such a big point of the game. And this whole concept of the Rift and the Abyss is such an embodiment of that. I do also think that it's worth noting that there are a lot of connections with how the Lifehold was originally designed to work, and how it relates to the way the Rift works, and how similar it is to Origin from Xenoblade 3.
Yeah, I think I saw as well that the original Ares, people were saying and also you can just see from the design of it, the original Ares looks a lot like Ouroboros, with all the like cores and everything. And yeah, I'm not really sure. Like I don't know if there's enough there to make a bunch of explicit connections between them, but it's very obvious that like with what Xenoblade 3 has kind of added to the lore of the series, that they would pull a lot from that. And visually, all the new content, all the stuff with Void, like you know, the new Ares, all that stuff. I think it's called like Ares Prime. Prime. All of that. It feels like it's pulling from a lot of those ideas on how, like, again, like Origin works, how the Ouroboros' power works. Again, the black fog. Like do they call it DMAT in Xenoblade 3, like kind of what's happening?
They call it something else, but I remember it being a very similar name. It's not dematerialization.
It's basically like the same thing, though.
D something else. It's also worth noting that sort of like connective tissue there, the like the way Ouroboros works and everything, and like the way it's depicted when like the characters are first like entering this sort of like different realm with each other. It reminds me a lot of how they kind of depict like the different souls communicating with each other in this, and I think you could kind of stretch that out to be like the way that you've got two souls connecting to attain a higher power is pretty close to the way Ares Prime works. But Ares Prime is able to achieve a higher level of power at once, not only because it's powered by the cores, but because it's being tied to so many souls. And that's like how they all communicate with each other, versus you don't have the power of the conduit in Xenoblade 3, and you also only have two souls melding at a time, and that's why they're prone to just destroying themselves if they stay like that for too long.
Yeah, and even as well, like I do think there's a bit of that shared idea as well, because Ares Prime ends up being at its strongest when you and Al join together. Like that. Even just you guys is enough to like make it unlock all its power, which is really cool. And
a lot of it really like I feel like all of this is all well and good, and the way that this all ties in together in like, oh, we have to escape Mira because it's being consumed by this dematerialization, by these ghosts and everything, and but none of that matters until you've got your connective tissue, and that is our main antagonist, Void. So Void shows up when Ares Prime shows up. When Al makes his return, that's when the ghosts start appearing and when the DMAT events start. And then this mecha, which was described as like the vessel of the Great One originally in the game, like it comes back to life and suddenly it is inhabited once again by the Great One, but not until Al is present and it is chasing him. And I do think that it is the power of the cores. Once they land here, that's when all hell breaks loose. And Void, I remember thinking was kind of boring at first, but the more I think about him, the more I start to like him as a concept.
Yeah, Void is interesting. He kind of mirrors Klaus in his own like personal universe. In which like he was messing with the conduit, and like I think if I'm remembering correctly, they lock Void away before he can mess with the conduit too much. But how does that work? I'm kind of like I think the details on that are a bit vague.
So it's skipping ahead a little bit. But it is described essentially in the last moments of the campaign, and also in the last continent through little snippets of lore. Void was originally a citizen of Samar. He is one of these fabled ancient Samarians. These are the race that, like, so many other races, like humans or Elma's people, all stem from. Like, these are the ancestors of everything. And
that's why the Ganglion wants to destroy humanity, because because humans are I think, either the last or one of the last species that came from Samar.
I think they're described as the last one. They are the final threat. How they know this and how far that stretches, especially if Mira exists in someone's plate of reality. I personally like to think that we are down to the wire and there's really not many universes left. The whole multiverse thing I know feels played out in a lot of media nowadays, but honestly, I think that they were planning on this the entire time, especially since the game we got right after X was Xenoblade 2, and that's where we see Klaus, like, actually speaking to the players for the first time and describing how there's, like, an infinite number of universes and everything like that. Like, they were getting into that around the time X came out. I think that was something they were always toying with.
Oh yeah, and especially because like X is so very obviously in a different universe than 1.
Yeah.
Like it's clear that that's what they wanted to do. If only if like maybe X was the idea to make Xeno an anthology series of a bunch of different like actual disparate ideas.
Well,
maybe that could have been it, but that's like what they wanted to do. So I don't think it's like unearned. Yeah, sorry, go.
Oh no, you're fine. Because that's what I thought when X first came out on the Wii U. Was I was just like, oh, this is a Final Fantasy thing, where like there's no real connection between them. Like there will be connective tissue. Like, oh, we got the Nopon. We got little references to the Monado, but don't read too deep into it. But then that was before I was really familiar with Takahashi's work. So he was trying to force franchises to fit together as early as Xenosaga. Mm-hmm. But shoot, I'm sorry, what was I talking about? The Void.
Yeah.
So he found a conduit. The conduits are something that have existed for a while, and this goes as far back as Xenogears and Xenosaga, where a similar entity exists, although it goes by a different name, the Zohar, which I think actually has ties. I forget. I know it's mentioned a few times in the Bible. I know that it has like more strict ties to I think the Torah. And
the Zohar is basically the connecting factor of anything with a Xeno in the name.
Yeah.
Like, the Zohar is... you're the Xenoblade 2 guy. You know the exact terminology. The Zohar is, like, the core of, like, Pyra and Mithra. Mm-hmm. What's that thing called?
The conduit?
No, it's just, like, the Zohar... Like, the actual name of whatever they got. Like, Numa is also it.
The core... I know the core crystal was, like, the Aegis. Sorry.
That's it. Yeah. So they call it the Aegis and like, the main Xeno, but like it is like that exact explicit shape is the most important thing in like all the Xeno games.
And they were throwing that in as early on as the original version of X too, because like they didn't start getting into that in the original Xenoblade Chronicles. And X felt like it was flirting with the idea. The flash drive that we mentioned that was in the Wii U Collector's Edition for the game is in the shape of a Zohar. The Lifehold pods that you find scattered around Mira are in the shape of Zohars. The Lifehold is in the shape of a goddamn Zohar. They don't call it out explicitly until Xenoblade 2, where they're just like, we've got a new name for it, it's the Conduit, and it is the ultimate matter. It is the ultimate source of energy and power in all of existence. And Void was originally a brilliant Sumerian scientist who managed to take the conduit as he was studying it, and he took all of its energy and power and placed it into 6 cores that he implanted and harnessed inside of Ares Prime, the original Ares Prime. The Ares is a mecha holding the Zohar. That is what it is. So in Xenogears, there was an entity called Deus, and Deus was an attempt at creating a bioweapon that was essentially being like given eternal power and life by the Zohar. It didn't go well, and I think that bad. And Deus was essentially attempting to become a deity and to become God by absorbing like humanity to be made manifest, I think is my understanding of that.
I believe I've heard the exact term a demiurge.
Well, so demiurge, that is a concept I want to say pretty heavy in Gnosticism, which Xenogears I believe like messes around with a lot. I know K-Bash would know. The demiurge is like is a false god. It is something that is
which is what Deus essentially is. It's because in Xenogears, like after the crash, that like so much time and civilization passes that on this new Earth, like Deus is basically the only thing that those people have that could be considered a god.
And that's such a fascinating concept. It's also, that's what I would consider Zanza. It's what
Exactly.
it's what I would consider the engineer in the heart of Yggdrasil. Is that Valhalla, Yggdrasil? What did they call
I think they said Yggdrasil was at least like the place that, like the tree of Yggdrasil is the place they were trying to go to in 2.
Elysium, sorry.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
Elysium.
We're dumb. We don't listen to anything we're saying. We know nothing about Xenoblade. Why are you here? Why'd you listen to an hour and a half of people who know nothing about Xenoblade?
Right. The Yggdrasil is the Digimon god.
Oops.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that soon, one day. Anyway, sorry, I apologize. I've been very all over the place with all of this. But the Demiurge is a concept that's existed a lot in Xenoblade. I would even say Zed is...
Yeah, absolutely. That's the name I was trying to think of. I was like, or I know there's Origin. Who's in that one? Zed. Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah, I know it's technically just Z, and Zed is just kind of like more like the European like pronunciation, but like I think it works. Plus, it's what I spent the entire game hearing him referred to as. I honestly think that there are a lot of connections to be made between Zed and what's his name?
Void?
Void, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's this idea of like your demiurge ultimately being based off of a like simplistic urge.
Yeah.
Void is very much like, because like we could go through and kind of give a plot point summary of like how you get to like the final confrontation about Zoid. About Void. Honestly, the Zed Void combo would go crazy. Zoid. But ultimately, Void is a creature that acts like the version of Void that we get to after like, you know, that Samarian was trapped in like imprisoned is something that does not understand death. Like,
that is so cool.
It is terrified of change. It is terrified of like dying. It does not want to. It doesn't. It's scared basically.
Sorry,
yeah,
no. Go ahead and finish.
No, you're the one with all the notes. Like I'll get to like because the interesting thing is the last thing that Al says to it. But I'd like you to kind of like go into your thoughts on that first.
Yeah, I wrote down like a whole page of just like thoughts on this. I might go ahead and just kind of read it off word for word the way that I wrote it. Void. So when Void shows up, he explains himself as essentially just like, oh my god, I love the way that he puts it. He claims that he is the one that brings all things to concord. And I looked up the definition, and concord is a state of agreement and harmony, and also failed Sony IPs. Oh.
I was gonna say state of death. Like,
when he shows up, he claims he is in a pursuit to understand death as a concept, and he essentially elicits a contest where, like, you know, who will survive this. He steals the cores from the Ares, and now he has the power of the conduit within his frame, this metal skull that is basically just the host of his soul now. It's connected, like his soul is connected to the Vita.
The Vita? Yeah.
Yeah. Vita, Concord, Jesus
Christ. Another dead Sony thing.
It's tied to the Vita in the same way that human souls are connected to MIMS, and it's all like through the rift and like the presence of the conduit, I believe, has an effect on that as well. And once he steals these, the conduit or like the, you know, those cores, they are the gateway key that lets you access the rift and actually allows you to travel it. We're talking interdimensional travel. And the only way to achieve that is through the like the cores. And he steals them, and he you know, he's basically like, one of us is going to survive. You have to make it to me, and then we're gonna fight over this key, and whoever gets it gets to leave this place and escape the ghosts. And it's all because he wants to understand death. Okay, so here's what I wrote down. Void and his pursuit of death and understanding it is tough, but I think I've come to understand it and how it fits with the game's themes a bit more. It's death versus nothingness. His pursuit is his own form of despair. Existence has become all he knows. The ghosts threaten something beyond death. They threaten erasure. I think that's why he sees death as a possible escape from annihilation. Maybe in a perverse way, he also sees his endless culling and killing as a mercy. That's why he claims to bring all things to concord, to agreement, and to harmony. He sees himself as a way that he is bringing people to the rift, to the abyss. He is the escape. He is the one bringing mercy onto the souls that would otherwise be erased by the ghosts. He was locked away by the Cimmerian people because when he experimented on the conduit and harnessed its power into the Ares, that is what originally brought the ghosts out and brought doom to their civilization. I think they barely scraped survival. It's also implied that the Cimmerians basically left on a multiversal journey to supplant their DNA among different worlds in order to survive in some form or fashion.
That's why the ghosts are hunting throughout the whole universe and a bunch of other universes just to find them, because they spread the fly my seed.
Yeah,
off into the cosmos.
Which doesn't Xenogears imply that humans were planted on that planet by an alien race?
Well, okay. In Xenogears, the initial implication when you're playing it is that this is some form of Earth, and this is some form of humanity.
Okay.
When in actuality, it is humanity kind of crashing on to another planet and then creating a new civilization themselves.
Oh, okay. I may have misunderstood. Although I still kind of want to believe that there was a connection there.
Oh, I'm sure. It's more complicated than that. I haven't played Xenogears in years, but it's the whole the big twist of Xenogears is that at the very beginning of the game, you have a very normal looking modern or futuristic sci-fi ship with a bunch of humans that crashes.
Yeah, with landline phones installed in the spaceship.
And then it immediately cuts to a fantasy world. And it's so hard, you can't really piece those two together up until you're given kind of a bit more context on what is going on there and what led from the moment you that cutscene to when you started playing the game, which was such a long period of time that I don't know the exact amount of time. I think it's eons or some shit. It's so much time that society kind of got a reset after all of that time, after that crash.
Yeah. Okay. Not too far off from kind of what I was thinking. I do kind of still want to believe that even in some roundabout way, I don't know how far you can get away with the canon just because Square does own Xenogears, and we all know that they don't play ball the same way a lot of other studios do. But the fact that they get away with what they do at the end of this, which I'm still kind of holding on to till the end, something worked out. So I don't know. I want to believe the Cimmerians are still somewhat connected to the original events of Xenogears.
Oh yeah, you could probably make that connection.
Yeah.
In some way.
I do love this concept though of I don't know if it was the intent, but I love kind of the idea that in his pursuit of trying to understand death as it exists in contrast to the complete erasure of existence that the ghosts bring, I kind of want to know, I wonder if that's if Void is unfamiliar with the distinction, if he thinks that there's a difference between death and the the destruction of the ghosts. I like that idea a lot. He also, I also wrote, Void's naive attempts at harmony are flawed because he makes choices devoid of emotion. He lacks the love and passion that drives us to live in defiance of certain obliteration.
And you know what's interesting? Like, not to cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
What's interesting about this is, and it's obvious, like, you can connect the dots yourself, but in a way, the Samarians, like, ensuring their own destruction by sealing him away, like, Void is stuck in an actual void for so long that his, like, whatever emotions probably existed have long been, like, just washed away.
I think they even said, like, one of the logs connected to the spears. I guess we could go ahead and get into that. Just to kind
if
of
you
like,
had any more to say about Void, like, that's fine. But, like,
well, I'm
still talking about
Yeah, this is actually kind of to bring us back to Void, but also just kind of like just a little closer to like bringing it home. Once you've gathered everything and everyone that you can, you do have to make the split decision to go ahead and launch the White Whale 2, and start making your way towards this new continent of Volataris. And that is where Void comes in. That's where he's been residing for however many eons that he's been imprisoned. And he calls you there. You go up to him, and you fight him. And if you got the Ares 90 like I did, you one-shot the fucker.
I did not. I know a lot of people who did, like, everything.
I didn't know it was that strong. I just thought it looked cool.
I don't even think I got that unlocked to even try to get. I actually I made sure to get, like, level 50 scales for all my people. I'm honestly kind of glad that I was a bit underpowered, because that meant I got to have a really fun final boss, and I found out that a lot of people did not.
I didn't even get to hear the cool new battle music that they made in the new area, because I kept killing everything as soon as it looked at me. But
I would say, though, I wouldn't really say there's cool new battle music for the new area, to be real.
It's one of my favorite battle themes. It's so good.
I mean, I'm a Sawano guy.
Mm-hmm.
I love the vocal battle themes of Xenoblade X. I very much like that, because Takahashi is such a big mecha fan. Like, he saw that, like, and this is probably not exactly from this, but, like, one of the things that Sawano is known for is composing the Gundam Unicorn OVAs. And
oh, did he?
Yes, he did. Which was before Xenoblade X. And Xenoblade X was a way for him to really experiment with his style a bit more. And I think that a lot of modern Sawano comes from Xenoblade X, where, like, those really fun vocal battle themes come from. So they also got Sawano back for two other major Gundam movie productions, which is Gundam Narrative and Gundam Hathaway, both of which have Sawano, like, really good Sawano vocal themes. So I think some of my disappointment with Definitive Edition kind of comes from the fact that Sawano is back, but in such a reduced role that you might as well not have even bothered bringing him back.
I can get that. I personally really like the new battle theme for Volataris, but
it is good.
Yeah, it did feel a little weird that we didn't really get a new, like, vocal theme. I will say, though, I'm not exactly what you would call a big Attack on Titan fan. Like, I remember really liking it when it first came out and then just dropping off really hard after a while. But I will need to send you some tracks from that, because, oh my god, it's very, very Xenoblade X coded, and some of the vocal themes from that are so good.
For sure, yeah. Like, I've seen my Attack on Titan in my day. I'm glad I jumped ship when I did.
Yeah, same.
I think people know more or less why. But yeah, it's just, I think it is a bit of a letdown that you bring him back in a supervisor role, and there's really only, like, one or two tracks that feel like Sawano touched them at all. I really like the new composer. I think the new composer's work in a void, in a sense, would be great stuff. It does not really feel entirely like Xenoblade X, and I think that if they had more money, they probably would have been to pay Sawano even a little bit more to give us, like, a Volataris battle theme that feels like an evolution of what X's battle themes were doing. X has so many battle themes. They have, like, 4 or 5 vocal battle themes, and they're all amazing. They're some of the best tracks I've heard in an RPG. They're so good. And so the Volataris battle theme that we have is good. It's not bad. It seems like it's the kind of thing that would have come from a normal Xeno game. Not one that was doing what X was doing. So I think that's kind of one of the reasons why like some of the new stuff didn't really hit with me as well, is that it's just like, oh, this is fine. But I kept waiting for like the part in the new battle theme to like start going crazy. And it just doesn't, it doesn't really hit that point, I guess.
I like when it got kind of drum and bassy. But I also I really like the main like field theme for Volataris.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it also reminds me of like I'll have to send you a track from Gravity Rush. It reminded me of a little bit of a more somber version of a track from that. But
alternatively, I have to send you the 2 vocal tracks from those Gundam things I was thinking of.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because you listen to them and you go, oh, so this guy still has it in him? I would have loved to see a Xenoblade X battle theme that built off of what he was already because the 2 tracks in mind are like one of the big ones is Vigilante in Gundam, and like you listen to that and it's like, oh, I could fight enemies in Xenoblade to this. Like, this just feels like right out of X in a way. So it's kind of just like, oh, I would have liked just at least like 1. Like, I don't even need a bunch more. I know you probably made way too much than what you're worth now. Kasawano is probably one of the highest paid composers in Japan, but like not even 1.
Now, what did you think of the main content that takes place in Volataris?
I like it. I am a big sucker for like games that go figure it out, idiot.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it was a pleasant change of pace, especially because at that point of the game I was like, okay, I love this game. I love the exploration. It is a bit though, go to waypoint marker, go get XYZ. Like it was feeling a little checkboxy for me at that point. So I'm glad Volataris was a big shakeup. It still feels like Xenoblade X's like general like design ethos, but they're trying to do something a bit else with it.
I agree. So the main concept is that after you take on Void the first time and you kind of call him out for like his ignorance, he scatters you and every character that you have gained affinity with, like every recruitable character, across these different floating islands in this continent of Volataris. It is up to you to go reclaim these people, to reclaim your scales so that you can fly across these continents and reclaim as many people as you can within this void. And I love that it is all up to you. And I love that it's like, I don't know if you can like take on the final boss without any of those people. I've never tried because I went out of my way both times to get everybody that I could.
Yeah, so you can. Apparently, if you have the I think the mech you had, you can pull it off. Like if your mech's like busted as hell.
Yeah.
But the game is clearly trying to be like, okay, go explore every nook and cranny of this like these floating islands. Get your buddies. Get all the spears, comb through this new map. We're not going to give you any waypoint markers.
Yeah.
It was giving Breath of the Wild a little bit, where the one waypoint marker you get is basically you're like in the center and it's like go fight Ganon.
Yeah.
And you could just make a beeline for it if you're just like, you're the kind to just follow waypoint markers. But the game is asking you to use your brain and your sense of adventurous spirit and actually just go find them.
It's not only finding your comrades. I also love that it gives you the ability to go find these 6 spears that are scattered across this area, and you'll solve very simple puzzles for some of them. that will allow you to, like, they pin down Void within his realm and start draining him of power by cutting off his connection to the cores. And I think outside of, like, a couple of the recruitable characters and outside of, like, the first spear, it's totally up to you how much of it you want to do. And it's gonna, like, but I'm like, this journey has all been about the community. It's all been about like who we build these connections with, and it just feels so wrong to go into that fight without going out of your way to find everyone. And the cool thing is that, like, yeah, you rely on a little radar that will show, like, oh, there's these distress signals, these red dots on here, or every once in a while you'll see a flare like rise into the sky out of a specific spot, so that you know to go over there. And or you just go visit the White Whale 2 for some reason and just see L there, because there's not really a different way. There's no other way to find out that's where he is.
He's just like, hey, what's up? I just came back. I'm good.
I love L.
That was great.
That was great.
But yeah, like, I really liked that they made me do that. I love friction in my games, and I'm really glad that that's what that's how they decided to end, like, the game on, is just making you put in the work.
It's also nice because you miss out on a part of what, like, the majesty of the world of Mira if you're just in your skull flying around once you get that ability. Like, running around on foot does so much for just the size and the beauty of that world. And Volataris forces you to run around on foot for the first big portion of it, and it feels so cool. I love the way it looks. I love the way it sounds. I'm a sucker for floating islands. So, like, it was everything I didn't know I wanted out of that final section. And I got super into that. So you get to actually go through all of that. When you reapproach Void, you take him on again, and then like, the only character that you can't reclaim before going back in there is Al, because he has Al and the Ares imprisoned. Once you beat him, you reclaim Al, and the Ares reclaims the cores, and it's into the final fight. And I love so much that he puts you in the mech.
He puts you in the Ares, which, this is something where it's like, you get what you put in. His affinity event, his optional affinity mission before, like, you go to Volataris, is him trying to see if you're worthy of piloting the Ares.
Yeah.
And even when you beat him, he's like, but I don't think you're ready yet.
And
maybe one day. And he even asks you, it's like, what do you think it takes to, like, do this? What do you think drives me? What do you think it takes to pilot the Ares? And you can have a bunch of answers, and they're all wrong. And he even says in that affinity mission, like, no, it's love. And I have to make sure that I know that you're capable of that amount of love before I would ever give you this thing. It's because he thinks you're... Sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off.
No, you're good, you're good.
He sees in you that you're probably going to be his successor one day. And by hearing the things that you've done on Mira, he kind of already sees that you kind of filled in that role that he was for all these people while he was gone.
It's funny, too, because his stupid little joke catchphrase thing, the hey, how's it poppin', I remember finding super grating at first, and, like, the first couple of times I heard it, I was just like, why are you trying to force this?
I was like, he's so quirky, I love him.
I don't know what it was, dude. Towards the end, I was in love with it, and I was just like, yeah, nah, how's it poppin'? Like, it works more, like, the closer to the end you get. And there's a moment when he puts you in the Ares where the prompt is just say the words, and you ask him, how's it poppin'?
It's so good. And what's really great is by the end, when people ask him that, he has a couple of variants on the line.
Oh, the last one is the best.
It's so good. But it's great because when you're gearing up to do that final battle, he puts you in the Ares, he's sitting next to you, all of the spirits of the people whose lives have been lost in your journey, either on Earth or on Mira, start flooding out with the Ares, and a bunch of people who's who lost loved ones get to see them for a brief second. Not like we don't get to see that, but you can tell from the characters that they're being hey, I'm doing okay, thank you. I'm gonna keep at it. We'll finish this fight, and then Lao comes out.
See, my favorite was actually the first one. I admittedly got kind of emotional when I saw Elma, and she's looking up and she's recognizing her people coming out of the Ares. It's the happiest you see her in the entire game, and it's just you see her just get flooded with this sense of peace and hope. That it's just there is a life in love, and that is what we have over Void. That is existence. That is death would be the loss of that, and that is our it is our way forward. It is literally the key we've lost. That is what, and God, it's so good
visually. It's so in the vein of the endings of 2 and 3 more than X, but I feel like they earned it. I really feel like they earned it.
Me too. That's again, as somebody who kind of rolled his eyes a little bit at the end of Interstellar, when there's when he's talking about love and everything, I'll have to bring it back up later, because there's a moment where love comes back in, and I legitimately got teary-eyed when I heard it, and I was just oh my God, what is this ending doing to me, dude?
Yeah, and then Lao joins you in the cockpit and gives you some of his energy to revitalize you and Al, and it's really satisfying. And I'm glad they went this direction overall.
And it feels like it works for this universe, because we've seen those motes of light that represent those people coming out of the Ares, and we've seen the connection that really has to people that have been lost. And that is a concept that's already been heavily explored in Xenoblade 3.
Yeah, it's another Gundam pull, but this almost feels like the movie finale to a Gundam show in a way.
Yeah.
For anyone listening who is in their Gundam, I was getting a bit Awakening of the Trailblazer was to 00, in which it's it's a bit rushed in spots, but there's a lot of heart here, and it's really trying to drive home again a lot of the more quiet parts of the main narrative, and it's trying to have this level bombast to it, which I really feel that final fight, again, with all of these literally the spirits of everyone we've lost, and the connections we have with these people, that power of the love you have for the people who weren't able to make it this far with the rest of you, which is something that that is literally why we as people continue to thrive. I've had to see a lot of people I love or care about pass away throughout the time, but we are literally who we are, and as far as we are, because of those connections we have with those people in our lives who have passed away.
Yeah.
It's just, that's life. And the best mecha are things that are reflective of what makes humanity special and what makes life so good. And it's such a weird genre you would associate with that, but do your homework enough, and that's what that is.
And I think the reason it really works for me too, especially as an ending to this particular game, is because this game was all about building connection, not just with the world of Mira, but also with everyone in it. And I think that's why I like the ending as much as I do, because it centers around that so heavily. But it's also we are leaving Earth in a much stronger, or we're leaving Mira in a much stronger place than we were when we left Earth. It's why I disagree that a lot of people feel like Mira as a planet was really meaningless, and I just don't feel that. I feel like we would not be where we were at the end of that game if it weren't for Mira and for the connections that it helped us bring, not just to the rest of humanity, but to everyone else that we met along the way, the friends that we made along the way.
And it's the same kind of thing you get with people who are like it's the Xenoblade X is not this, but I was thinking about the same kind of discussions that come from those endings where a twist is like, oh, where like they do like a meta twist where they say like, oh, this was all a game or whatever, or like this was all this or that, and it's people who immediately disregard everything else they've seen because they go like, oh, well, nothing mattered. And it's like, it's that kind of mindset where you really only care about the destination and you don't care about the journey. Yeah. Where Xenoblade X is a game about the journey, like, and with this new content, it really shows that like, while I am a bit bummed that Mira was kind of just, you know, deleted in the way they handled it, I can't be mad at it because so much of that last content is drilling in that at the end of the day, our experiences at Mira made humanity better.
I also really like how, like, the poignance of the way that Earth or that Mira disappears. We mentioned before, but like your characters in an amnesiac, the only memories they have are of Mira. As far as they're concerned, and for all intents and purposes, that is the only home they've ever known. You empathize with characters the entire game that miss Earth and are having a hard time acclimating to this new world and the fact that they just can't go back. This is you, the avatar, but also you, the player, experiencing this for the first time, where you get to feel your world taken away. And I love... I'm a big sucker for skyboxes. I feel like a good skybox goes a huge way to emotionally sell a scene.
Especially in open world games.
Oh yeah. When the White Whale 2 ascends and is going towards Volataris, you're watching New LA disappear. It's getting swallowed by nothingness. And one, this guy looks amazing, and it adds to this feeling of a coming storm, and it's so good, but also everybody's just very somber about it, and you can tell that it's just like, this hurts, but they're ready for what's coming. It feels optimistic to a degree. I love that your character, the avatar, a lot of people just refer to them as Cross, is the one that stands there the longest. And it does a close-up on their face as they're just taking it in, and you just see like this determination hit their face as they're just like, they're watching it go, and they're experiencing this, and I love the way that that's done. I like that they took the time to do that.
Yeah. And yeah, I didn't think about it that way, where it's like, yeah, you get to actually experience it, like, that feeling that probably everyone on Earth felt of just that, like, yeah, your life as you know it is kind of just gone now, and it's like, what are you gonna do about it? And it's great. It's why that, like, at the absolute end of the game, like, well, I guess we can circle a little bit back to like Void's last moments, but it's why when you're escaping Volataris, you're trying to make it to the new world, they do a little bit where they're gearing up to launch, and your character, like, this isn't like a choice or whatever. Oh yeah. In the cutscene, your character breaks off from everyone else and starts like, you know, like trying to attract all of the ghosts, and it's like fighting off, and they're going to launch. They're doing their Star Trek launch, their massive, like, you know, beam away, and you're racing back. And it's such, I was like grinning like an idiot because I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I know that I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna walk in and be like, hey guys, how's it going? And but I was like, the fact that they're doing this is great. Where it's like, it's the last second, it's flashing, and your mech's getting really close, and then for like I think like a minute or two later, you know, they don't tell you what happens. Everyone's like really wants you back, and then you just walk in. And I grinned and I got emotional. I'm like, damn, I am that guy.
I am him.
I am him.
I've seen that trope done so many times. This was one of the places where it worked the best for me. I do want to circle back to Void real quick and like his final moments.
That's super important, yeah.
It's one of those things that I've had a hard time putting into words because I don't know why I like it as much as I do. But I think I'm coming to a deeper understanding of it where like there's this moment between Void and Al where Void is just like entranced by the sensation of death. And
because as he's dying, and this was very crucial to getting Void, I think, to work as an antagonist. And also, this is mecha. You have those characters just have a conversation.
I love it.
Because the mecha at its absolute best is a genre that is about understanding the differences between one another. And it's why Void, I think, is so desperate to understand a certain part about existence. And, like, you know, Void is dying, Void is passing away, and Void doesn't understand these feelings. So it's literally saying, like, what is this? Is this death?
Yeah.
Like, I need to keep experiencing this.
And I also loved that, like, because we can also kind of assess that if he's been to Elma's world and he helped in the destruction of that, he spawned the ganglion, he led to the destruction of Earth. Who knows how many other universes, like, death doesn't mean a lot to him because he's just constantly being faced with more life that can end. So, like, I kind of buy the fact, and, like, even one of the logs of the spears describes him as a deathless being. I don't think the Samarians could die. I think they only end when they're erased, like they would be by the ghosts. And it's this cute little moment where he's like, he's talking to Al, and Al's like, you know, you only die once. And if Void...
he was specifically like, well, bud, I'd love to keep giving you death forever, but you only die once.
And I love Void's reaction where he's like, where will I go?
It's like, wait, what?
Yeah. I love the where will I go line because Lynn has a moment earlier where she's explaining, like, she feels like she's starting to come to an answer to the great mystery of, like, where the soul resides. And it's not just in the body, it's not just in the mind, it's not just in one person, but it's like a collection. It is, like, shared among people. I think that's why it's so poignant that Al points out, is just like, because of the way that you have existed and because of the way that you have treated death and life, like, you will be snuffed out. You will cease to exist. Like, death means something different for you than it does for the rest of us. You reap what you sow. So awesome. So cool.
It is, yeah. And I think there's something about, like, the emotional intelligence of this ending where it's like, they have plenty of reasons to be mad at Void, but they do understand a bit about Void, like where kind of Void's coming from, and they're willing to just talk to him. They're not like, well, you piece of shit, fucker, you're gonna burn. They're literally just like, hey, bud, this is what it's like.
Yeah.
We don't know all the answers, we don't know where you're gonna go, but this is... Like, they literally just talk, like, they do the thing, and they just have a conversation, and, like, Void is just scared. Like, you get to see this entity, this fucking being, this powerful, like, deity, scared and confused, and because it has only operated on one, like, no emotions, and only one drive, one exact, like, experience of just, like, trying to figure this one thing out and getting it, and just not knowing what to do with itself.
Yeah.
Like, as much as there's stuff I don't really, like, super care about in this epilogue, that was perfect. And no notes. And
that was something that, like, I liked Void the more that time went on, and I feel like the more you think about him, the more interesting he really is. Yeah, it's kind of how I feel about a lot of the concepts for this epilogue. And I think it's part of the reason why I felt like a bit of an outlier, because I kept trying to look to see what everybody else thought, and things seemed very mixed to negative about this ending. And the thing is I get it, and I'm not here to tell people that they're wrong. It's just like, that's just not the experience I had.
Yeah, that's I was ready for it because I thought Xenoblade 3's ending was one of the best things I've ever seen in a game.
It's really
and then
good.
everyone was like, it's stupid. Why didn't Rex show up? Why didn't Rex walk out of a portal and be like, it's Rex in time, and then he Rexed all over that guy? It's just like stuff like that where it's like, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were talking about. And it's like, I don't think that, I think this story did not touch me the same way as that, but I really liked it. I thought everything it tried to do with what it had worked.
I'm also just, like, such a sucker for Cataclysm and the Apocalypse and good depictions of it, but the hopeful undertone that came with it here, it's why, like, and I messaged you to send you, like, there's the finale cutscene during the last stand. Void is defeated, and you guys have to get ready to jump. The Ares needs to connect to the White Whale 2, it needs to charge up, and then you need to jump to a new universe to escape the ghosts. And it feels like there's so many elements here where it's like you're not actually defeating this great enemy. It's still out there, and it'll still probably show up to whatever universe you go to eventually. But it does have to travel. It does have impediments. Like, there are things that can stop it from just, like, warping in to take things out. It needs to make it there, and it needs to know where you are. But it's like, I don't know, there's just something so triumphant about it. And I sent you, like, just the music for the cutscene, which sounds weird, but, like,
I listened to it. It was like, it's very moving.
It moves between so many emotions. It's like, it's desperation. Desperation from both, like, your faction. It feels like the ghosts are desperate too. It feels like they're just throwing everything at the wall to take you out because they cannot let you get away. It's why it feels like there is triumph in it. But there's also despair when things start going wrong, when the ghost battleships start coming in. They hit the they hit the ship, and they start, like, causing the jump drive not to be able to charge, and it goes into this quiet despair as everybody's just like, we don't know if we can do this. And just Al just starts talking to the Ares, and the part where I started tearing up was when he's talking to Ares and he says, do you like these guys? Do you love them? Mm-hmm. And, like, the music's just swelling with that, and I'm just like, and it's just showing you all of these characters that you've connected with this entire journey. And it's just like, yeah, I do love these characters. I will move the realms and boundaries of reality for them. It really makes you want to stand in defiance of, like, an all-consuming force of nature. And he calls upon the Ares to just, like, go super mode, and then you get that moment where your avatar does the move. It does the move that Al used in defense of the White Whale 2, and it's just going to town on the ghosts, and it just, like, obliterates a battleship. You got all these other battleships that come in, and when the White Whale 2 is charged, Van Ham is calling all these everybody back in.
Yep.
There's a moment in there, I don't know why I latched onto it so much, but again, it's just like, it encompasses so many things that I cared about with this ending and with this game. There's just this one little moment, and I know they put it in there on purpose, where the mechs are flying back, and there's one that's almost missing the ship, and then you've got one mech that just grabs him by the arm and pulls him in. It's also, like, one of my favorite pieces of music in the game. It's so good. And then, you get that amazing moment where it's just like, they're getting ready to jump, and it's like now or never. Your avatar is still on their way back to the ship. Van Ham, you see just, like, conflict in his face, but he has to make, like, a really quick decision where he's just like, he knows he might be leaving you behind, but you gotta do it anyway. It's down to the wire.
You see it in his face too. He's just like he looks away for just a brief second, like, upset, because everyone is, like, screaming, like, please come back.
Yeah.
And he's just like, but we gotta. And, like, it is the right call, but, like, you see it in like, oh god, it's just so good. Like
like, this scene is directed so well.
It really felt like they're, like, all or nothing kind of, like, moment of just like, yep, going all in. Mm-hmm. This is everything we got. We got to drive it home. And while there were parts of the new content that I felt that, like, kind of suffered from the lack of budget, I'm glad that they knew where to put it, like, to really spend their money, because that last fight scene, that last cutscene was probably my favorite in the game.
Mine too. It's one of my favorite endings to a video game. I know I told you that before, and I felt like I was going crazy because I'm just like, am I exaggerating this in my brain? Like, am I making this out to be more than it really is? It's kind of how I felt, because, like, no one else quite seemed to feel that way about it. But I'm more confident in myself now that I'm just like, no, that's what it meant to me. That's how I connected with this. And in a weird, this is gonna sound stupid and cheesy, but in that way that it's just like you start to communicate with, like, the souls of other people, like, within the rift and everything like that. and it's why I kind of like to think that is what helps all these races communicate with each other. I felt like I just got the director for a second. Like, I think it felt like I just, like, had that little connective moment with him where I'm just like, I see what you're doing here. And I see why this matters to you, and it felt like there was purpose here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, that's the fucking... Maybe I'm, like, using the wrong word, but, like, that feels like that's the artistic ethos. Like, that's the kind of art I always love so much. It's the art where you can tell someone is bearing their soul to you. They're desperate for you to understand their worldview, their ideas, and to convey that visually as well as this game does. Like, at the end, it's great. There is so, like, and that's why I think that this stuff part, like, this new content, despite my issues, will stick with me, because at the end of the day, they are very much trying to just get you to understand them, and I will always go to bat for art like that.
Yeah.
And they did it. They pulled it off, because when I finished chapter 12, I was like, that was fine. The main story's fine. You know, like, I would still consider Xenoblade X, even before chapter 13, to be one of my favorites, but most of that was from the side quest writing and the gameplay.
Yeah.
The main story was not really doing it for me. I was kind of like there were parts that were great, but a lot of it's just kind of like, it's fine. And while the new content is very different, and I can see why some people won't like it, because it is doing, like, tonally, it is distinct from the rest of what the game was doing and how that story was told. It just does it so well that I don't care.
It's also why I wanted to discuss it without trying to draw too many parallels to the other Xenoblade games or the other Xeno games in general. There's a lot of connections there that I honestly just have fun, like, making. Like, I think it's just fun to think about, like, how those those threads connect. But, like, I feel like in order to be a good ending, it also has to just deliver on, like, what X itself is, and how does it connect back to the core themes and ideas of that. And I think it does deliver. And yeah, the ending that you get after that is this quiet moment as you're traveling, like, to a new world, and Al takes a moment to describe, like, while he was imprisoned by the Void, he was he got to connect with his mind and saw his history. That's where a lot of, like, that his past is explained to you. And I liked that a lot. One, because the visual of the man sitting there with the spears was beautiful. Like, God, that's such a gorgeous image. It was just like, I don't know, it felt like we got so many answers. It felt like I understand why, like, humanity was a target. I understand why Mira was important, or at least in the way that I've interpreted it. You know, it just felt like I got a lot of purpose out of that. And then that ending where it is explained earlier on in the game that Al did have a sister that he lost while, like, traveling to, I think, to America in order to, you know, join Project Exodus and save humanity. They travel, like, to their new universe, and he sees an image of, like, these feathers, almost like an angel's wings, just kind of enveloping the ship. And he sees what I'm pretty sure is supposed to be his sister.
Yeah, absolutely. That, yeah. 100%, that's what that was.
Yeah, guiding him to their new universe, guiding him to safety. Beautiful.
Which, again, love. That's the power of love.
Yeah, it's... I liked it, and then, like, you know, your character survives, and then you see your new planet, and then my jaw hit the floor because I was like, what the hell? Did they do this? And that's the part where it starts getting into... You can kind of accept it as, hey, they found their way to a new world, and that's just kind of it. But I do not think that the format of that was a mistake, and I do think that you were supposed to take notice that it is almost a direct recreation of a shot from the opening to Xenogears.
So that is a bit interesting, because as soon as they were like, we're going to our new world, my mind instantly went to the ending of Future Redeemed. And I was like, easiest, like, you know,
yeah.
Like, the ball is teed up. the white whale coming back on the new planet, and then I saw that ring, and I was like, wait, what are you doing? What are you doing? That's okay.
There's a part of me that wonders, because I kind of want to go back to that ending shot from Future Redeemed and see if there's enough of the planet you don't see that they were trying to leave it vague.
The thing that comes back is meant to be vague.
Yeah.
And they are two distinct planets.
Well, okay, yeah, because I was wondering if the ending of Future Redeemed was essentially, I don't want to say a placeholder, but like, I wonder if Takahashi was wondering if he could get away with what he was doing here yet.
Well, I think Future Redeems is implied that Earth is restored.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably right. That's probably me reaching too much, but I do think that this ending is supposed to make you think of Xenogears.
Oh yeah, because you sent me a photo, I think, and it was like, oh yeah, wait, what?
It's almost 1-to-1. Now,
I would, and I'm very curious if that's just meant to be like a coy little jab, because if that is the Xenogears planet, then that means nothing good goes for anyone there. But also, they don't have a conduit.
Well, actually, they do.
Oh, that's not good.
It's so now the reason why it's poignant to me is because the context of that shot is incredibly different, and it's obviously not the same in how it worked in Xenogears, where that was this wasn't the last of humanity. This was this was the planet where Deus was developed, and Deus went crazy, and so this is transporting a bioweapon, a Zohar, and the survivors of that planet, and things go wrong just above this planet that they're above. I don't think that this is supposed to be a recreation of that scene. I don't think that this is supposed to imply that, oh, this was the same ship that happened to. I don't think that at all.
No, it's a bit of reference, I think, is what they're mostly trying to do with that.
I think it's a bit of reference. They may try to tie it back into Xenogears in some way if they're allowed to, but I do think that there's something really beautiful about, we have this ending that was all about, we've been here before, but there's a much more hopeful nature to this. When we left Earth...
Absolutely.
Leaving Earth was heartbreaking, but now leaving Mira feels a lot more hopeful. We feel a lot stronger, a lot more triumphant. The things we've learned, the things we can do now. Versus this in Xenogears, that was a freak accident and everything. And the same thing still remains. You have all these survivors on a ship passing over this planet with a Zohar powering a weapon. Except the context is just now there's hope. Now this is a good thing. This isn't it's flipping that idea on its head. I like to think that that's what that was supposed to be about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would almost think it would be a bit insulting to what they're doing with this ending if they are trying to be and then Xenogears happened. Yeah. Because there's hope with this ending.
Well, it also wouldn't make sense with Xenogears just because we know the planet in Xenogears that was connected to, and we know that the name of that different ship, and the ship was also a completely different design. I just meant
even if they're trying to recreate it with their own IP.
Right,
I'd be that'd be a bit weird, but I think for all we know, if they're really gonna go for it, maybe that they're gonna land on the already established planet of Xenogears. That would be neat.
That's kind of where I'm hoping they're going with it, to be perfectly honest. I do also think that it's just again, like I mentioned before, you do also have the thing to worry about in that this conflict has spanned universes, not just planets, but realities, dimensions stacked on top of each other. And we don't know how many times it's happened or how many universes are even left. But the optimism at the end there makes me think, yeah, we're building up for a return of the ghosts. I honestly think that this entity is going to become better realized later. And I think that we're going to see the ghosts return, and it could be a threat that is confronted by the casts from every like game that we've seen. I personally would prefer to just see new casts of characters in those established worlds from the other Xenoblade games. We've already done our return trip for like Shulk and Rex and everything, and it works so well there that I'd rather they not retread that ground.
I would like to never see the old cast ever again. I think it would be fine if maybe like one or two, like if it but like keep that. And this is why I think base Xenoblade 3 works so well, is because like so much of that game is about how previous generations fucked things up for the current generation, and it's like we cannot be so bound by legacy and these ideas that we have to like hold on to these old characters to solve our problems. It's like, yeah, it totally makes sense. If where Xenoblade goes from here, I really think it needs to be its own, like it needs to keep being fresh, because that's why so many people fell in love with 2, is that it had a brand new cast of characters, and the one lingering cast member is the one of the old generation that fucked everything up. And it's these ideas that it's like, and this is something that I think also applies to, like, again, Gundam, and Takahashi is a big Gundam fan, and also, like, just Takahashi's design ethos of just, like, these stagnant old generations trying to force their ideals on, like, you know, these new kids, and it's just, like, we gotta let them, like, solve their own shit. Yeah. And it's why I would not be against like an X2 where we continue kind of seeing some of these characters, but I think it would be a really good, smart move that wherever we go from here has our, like, if the ghosts are going to continue being a thing, we gotta have some new, like, fresh faces, and I think that's where Xeno really thrives. I
think, like, especially with like a new established world where we get to see that they actually touched down on a planet that, let's face it, is actually even in the realm of inhabitable, because Mira is not. And just be like, oh, hey, we've had a couple of generations to try to, like, prepare for the ghosts. We know they're out there. We know we're going to encounter them again. But now we're discovering the secret. Let's spend a game where we explore the ghosts and how they connect to everything else. And, like, how do we finally defeat them? Like, how do we bring this all closed?
It's definitely a better possible tease for a larger series antagonist than the fucking Fog Beasts were with the Future Connected. King, yeah. Where the Fog King was just like, we just ripped a model from Xenoblade 2 and you gotta fight it now. I don't know, man. And this is just like, the ghosts are like, cool. This is such
they are the Reapers of reality. Like, they are... it's such a cooler way to tie all of these stories together, and don't get me wrong, like, I still really like those connections too. I like the implication that the Klaus experiment is what triggered the ripples from another world that released Void from his prison and started the conflicts, you know, there that destroyed however many realities. I like the that essentially the ghosts are basically a retake of the Gnosis, and like how they connect back into Xenosaga and everything. You can even kind of look at Void as sort of a retake on Udu. Like, there's so many, like, fun things to play with there. I also, like, one of the things I loved was in Xenogears, they established that the gears were something that were planted deep within the planet that were, like, redug up from an ancient civilization. And that's how the scales were developed. They were Sumerian blueprints that Elma's people, like, uncovered and recreated. There's a lot of really fun connections and stuff there. And there's a part of me that really, really, really wants to believe that there's a way to connect this all back in and just kind of, like, see Takahashi be able to reclaim what's his, and if there's a way for him to just kind of, like, use this as a way to make all of his stories come together towards one common goal. That's so cool. And I know it's been done a million times. We live in a world of crossovers now where everything just bleeds into the next, and it kind of stops being interesting. But when it's portrayed this well and feels like it has this much purpose, it works.
We're literally seeing someone's life work, like, over a period of like 25, 30 years. the fact that he's managed to connect all this stuff and keep things going and keep having them be so fresh with like Monolith, his like team that is thriving, it is commendable. And it's like, yeah, I'm totally in. I am 100% in on like wherever you're gonna take this next, because in this modern era of Xeno, he has not I have not been failed by whatever they're doing. There's spots I don't like, or maybe don't like as much, but like. Honestly, in going back to it, like with 3, with how much he was able to kind of redeem, like, or not redeem, but like, take back and represent Xenogears in his own work again, that he owns, is just so commendable. And like, it is cool, like from the little bits of Xenosaga I do know, like how much that seems to be kind of at play now with X and wherever they go from here. To talk about the Ghost a little bit, while I don't have as much like familiarity with Saga, I love the idea of universal correctors. It's kind of why I'm still on the FF7 remake train right now, because I think that's such a fun concept.
I think I like the way it's portrayed just a little bit more here, if only because it feels less meta. And does that make sense?
No, it does. I like meta shit, so
Me too.
I'm cool either way. But like, if that's kind of where we're going with this, I think it's just cool no matter what. Like, I didn't bring that up to say like this did it better than that or whatever.
Right.
It's just something I like, and that is something I thought of immediately. The idea of someone like Klaus breaking the universe and there being like the universe fighting back against that.
I want to go back to the end of Future Redeemed. Because there was an evacuation on Earth at the end of that too, right? It can't be the same Project Exodus from X, but was it under the threat of ghosts?
I think they kept it vague. I think there's probably enough there. Well, because like I don't know if they really like, if even in the original like Xenoblade X, like in the early stuff that shows like the conflict, they didn't really like go over the ghosts too much.
Right.
Or at the very least, I don't think they knew them by name, so they might not have been able to report on them. But my own personal headcanon, and I'm sure someone could in the comments be like, oh, well, I've connected this, that, like I studied this and saw the differences between that, but like this is just what I'm thinking, that like the start of X and the Klaus experiment was the same event.
Yeah.
Like, because they keep what was actually going on with Earth vague enough in Xenoblade 1 that I think it just clicks together.
I think the Klaus experiment, if it was connected to Void's like release, would have had to have been well before the evacuation of X. But I do think that one feeds into the other.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, because I think like at the time with the Conduit, what Klaus was kind of doing, he didn't really care about the invasion of Earth. He was just in it for like the experimentation of it. He just, because I think that like it's the classic case of the government funded a scientist who was just kind of a bit crazy with power. And so he was just like, we're just going to make a new universe. Like, I don't really care what's going on with everything else outside, but like, now's the best time, all or nothing, we're making a new universe.
Well, it's also kind of interesting because it's also implied the destruction of Earth at the beginning of X is also what sent the white whale into the universe and that holds Mira. So like that split between universes from the destruction of a planet, like that falls really in line with how like the different versions of the worlds for Xenoblade 1 and 2 like kind of happened. There's a lot that see, that's what I mean. There's so much fun stuff to just chew on.
It's a great time to be a Xeno fan.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, there's so much.
I also love sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm really looking forward to giving the games a proper replay when Switch 2 comes out.
Yeah, I do love when you see the ghosts for the first time and you get back to base. I got a little bit of a chill when Elma started like reciting the Book of Revelation, and I was just like, oh, we're doing this. I was like, oh, you're talking about the unleashing of the angels of death from the river. Like, oh, we're getting into this now. I see what we're doing. Okay.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I'm just like, dang. Like, again, there were I think I wish X Definitive could have been given a bit more time and love, but I also understand the realities of game design and the fact that Nintendo was like, no, we're wrapping the Switch up, my guys. Like, this one was divisive. You'll get enough to port it.
Yeah.
But like, we're not funding, like, you're not getting a blank check on this like you did with Xenoblade 3.
Do you think there will be any like performance upgrade for not that it really needs one. I mean, it's incredible that it runs so well on the Switch.
People found in the code of X, apparently. We're not going to know this until the Switch 2 comes out, or if there's some kind of like patch or update.
So like rumor for now.
Well, but like in the code, because people took it apart, like fans went into the code of X Definitive and saw there is a toggle, more or less, to set the FPS cap to 60.
That's all I want. That's all I want. Give me that. I will play through this game again. I've spent probably close to 150 hours in X now, but it's just like, I don't know. I already liked X back when it first came out. I love it even more now. They cleaned up this game so well.
What I'm really wanting more than X, mostly just because like X is so fresh, and I thought it did a good job at hitting its 30 FPS target so much that it didn't bother me. Is I just want updates for 1, 2, and 3. 2 especially. Oh my god.
2 could use it. 2 could use it.
2 needs it. It's like 2 is a good game. Oh, it's bare. Like you could really see Monolith like get their shit together and understand and master this console as you go from 2 to 1 Definitive to 3 to X.
Monolith.
It is. They're.
Monolith, like, I don't think it's too much of an exaggeration to say that Monolith is among one of the most impressive and I would argue most important studios we have developing today.
Monolith, like Nintendo acquiring Monolith is probably one of the smartest decisions they have ever made, because you would not have like Breath of the Wild, which was a massive smash success that successfully launched the Switch, without Monolith.
Yeah.
Like, they are crucial in getting Nintendo where they are right now, and I hope that even if like X Definitive didn't like sell amazingly, that they're like gonna keep like funding Monolith to make their games. I cannot imagine how a Switch 2 Monolith game is gonna be. Oh my god, because the Switch Monolith games are so impressive already. Yeah. It's just that like hardware kept the resolution low, but with the like 120 FPS 4K console, that's gonna be dirty. That's gonna be some like heathen shit. I'm gonna feel nasty while playing that game.
It's so cool. I did want to ask, like, how are you? Because I know you kind of went back to rewatch the ending before prepping for this podcast. Like, how do you feel about it now versus like the first time you saw it?
Oh, I definitely, like, I always liked it. Like, I always thought it was, like, I was thinking while playing through Chapter 13, I was like, the ending will make or break this entire epilogue.
Yeah.
And I honestly do think that about, like, every time I play a Xeno game and I'm liking it, or there's parts that I'm, like, iffy on, I'm just like, oh, however it ends, kind of decide how I feel about this. And I liked it. I really liked what I saw at first time. There were a couple of, like, my checklist of wants and needs kind of going into this, and it's not good to like have a checklist, like a mental checklist even, of things you need a game to do to enjoy it. A lot of that did kind of come down to initially was like, I really want like a new battle theme, a new ending theme, because like, yeah, I was kind of hoping for new credits and a new like vocal ending theme to kind of like really bring us home. Have it like time away from it makes me like it even more.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that likes this ending.
It's a good ending. Like, yeah. Even if I've seen the kind of stuff this is wanting to do better elsewhere, I cannot get mad at what it actually is trying to do. I think it succeeds, and I think it is drawing a line in the sand of saying this is where we want X to go from here. And they ripped the Band-Aid off pretty early, I think. And they're like, guys, you're not all going to be happy with what we do here, but this is what we want to do. And I think from here, I'm gonna just have to see where it's taking us. But I still think X Definitive Edition as a game experience, start to finish, is a good time. It has a good main story that I liked a lot.
Oh, that's good. I do apologize. I took up like 2.5 hours out of your Sunday today, but
That's whatever.
That's whatever. I've just been really wanting to talk about this because like I'll go to work and nobody that I work with has played through this or beaten it, so they either don't care or I don't want to spoil it for them. And it's like I need to get all these ideas out there. I need to talk about this because there's more than, and again, I'm not trying to sound like that guy, but I do think that there's a little bit more here than some people are giving it credit for.
I mean, that's the thing though. Like fans of this game of these games have been with the series for so long. You guys really don't think that they're cooking something?
Yeah, and
you think suddenly that they just were like, let's make bad writing or whatever, which they didn't. But like, just suddenly it's like, oh, we're just gonna like not deliver that. It's like, while not everything probably met your expectations, I think it's like there's a lot here.
Yeah. To
like chew on, way more than I think. Yeah, it's getting credit for.
And I think that there's just like a lot of lines to draw between like other things, and it's like it's almost an entirely different discussion when you start wanting to like build it on top of the other Xenoblade games and like how it all ties into all of that. But I'm also happy with just how much there was to appreciate for this one singular game right here.
And I want to see a follow-up. I really like what this told me is that what comes next from Xeno is I either want a just straight up X2 successor game that is like back to doing everything X did in the exact way it did it, or some kind of mishmash of both, because that's one of the things that I think I fell so in love with Xenoblade X, and which we didn't really have time to get into, is just the gameplay is so good. The exact style of Xenoblade exploration that they're offering here is just incredible, and I want the series to revisit these ideas. Like, I would be totally fine if the next Xenoblade game was more in the style of, like, 3, and was trying to just be a completely narrative-focused game, but oh, there's so much that X does well, and there's nothing like Xenoblade X, straight up.
There really isn't.
But there should be. Make a successor.
Were there any other like points, topics, or anything you wanted to hit on before we wrap things up?
I'm trying to think if there's anything like that I really, really liked. I kind of got a lot of it. Like, again, that side quest writing is so interesting, and it's so fun consistently, and it definitely, like, especially because like it really throws you off guard. Like, you would not expect the side quest to get into the kind of shenanigans it gets into.
Shit, another thing I just thought of. I remember I wrote this down earlier and I completely forgot to mention it. I just have to get this in here last minute.
Yeah.
I think this explains why Professor B could never leave. I don't think he's from the future. I think he's from a parallel universe that got swallowed up and doesn't exist anymore, and that's why he keeps ending up back on Mira.
Yeah, I would believe that. I think that's a pretty funny way, because it also fits with the bit of Professor B being kind of an idiot and not being able to piece that together.
Yeah, I think he keeps trying to go to a different timeline, and it's not that at all. I think he's from a different universe, and it's not there anymore.
Yeah, or that like time doesn't really work in Mira, where as we know it, like maybe he is able to travel like through time, but there is no future for Mira because of like the weird like reality it's kind of stuck in. So he just kind of ends up back at the exact same time because there is no time.
Sorry, I just had to get that one in there last minute.
I don't know, that's probably a more interesting thing to talk about than me just kind of rambling about side quest good.
Because the side quests are like the game.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any that really stuck with me. I guess it's like I really like that one where you're basically just trying to defeat a racist organization that's splintered off of Blade.
Yeah,
and like you're fighting with like political assassination attempts and stuff, and it's just like that stuff's fun. I really like that.
I do love that stuff. I love when it just gets into like trying to build coexistence between all of these races and with each other. You you get the sense that you are helping these people grow, and I think that it fits with the revelation that it's just like, oh, we didn't exactly like leave Earth with all of the most like morally uplifted or enlightened people. Like, these were people that lived in the upper class, and like they already kind of had a sense of like status of superiority, and I feel like they play into that well in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also has this, it is a very clear ideal that the writers are having of just like, hey, if you're in the way of progress, like get with it or like die. And that sounds a bit harsh, but that is kind of this mindset of that all these games have of, if you are so stuck in the past with these regressive ideals that just do nothing but hurt other people, there is no place for you. Either you will cause your own suffering in the way of like the guy in Xenoblade 1 that kills what's her face, Metal Face or
Mumcar,
where like Mumcar cannot move on, or he's stuck with like bitter revenge being the only thing he cares about. He causes his own death, pretty much, an avoidable death. It's like stuff like that on the large scale, or even stuff on the small scale. It's like progress to happen, for us to be the best versions of ourselves, you cannot be stuck in the past.
Yeah.
And pretty much every single side quest chain in this game that don't involve delivering pizzas has just that idea. And it's cool.
I'm glad. That's why I'm so glad that this ending centers around us overcoming the worst traits that we left Earth with, and it's about taking that time to meet with just one little old lady hanging out with her dead husband, which, speaking of which, she'll have a closer connection now, having traveled through the Nexus and actually getting to be one with his soul again now than she would have if she had just been eradicated on Mira. Like, there's beauty to saving her.
Yeah. And it's just like, it was so good that the like there was a version of this where they did not have you spend so much time trying to make sure everyone had a spot on the new white whale, and it would have been a much worse story. And it's like, because of that, it's like, yeah, it works. It works because it understands that the real parts of Xenoblade X that are so effective is just that ground level stuff of you making real connections with people that don't seem as like important as some of these big like characters that are like the larger of life cast members that you're walking around with, or these government figures. Because at the end of the day, Xenoblade X is trying to meet people on a human to human like connection level, or not like human because there's so many different species, but like
I know what you mean.
Individuals. It's trying to get you to empathize with your fellow Strandies, because that's important. That's, again, because community.
That's why I think whether the physical like embodiment of the planet of Mira is still there or not, I still think that the planet mattered. I still think our time there mattered. It's why watching it go was sad, but it didn't feel like it left without purpose.
Yeah, and like, again, it's like if you think that just because something's gone, it never mattered, it's a very childish mindset to have.
That's also to say, I think that was also part of the reason why they send you on the mission to get all that data about Mira. I do not think that it's a mistake that mission takes place right after Lynn talks about how she believes that the human soul is found within our connections with each other and not just in one individual. I think that the world of Mira is a part of that, and I do think that the ending, focusing so heavily on carrying those we lost and being guided by them, I think that I don't know, I think it all connects.
It absolutely does, yeah, because it's not like disrespectfully throwing out Mira. There's so much of that ending that is people quietly appreciating what it did for them, and there is a respect made to it. Like, that's the thing though, disaster is always going to happen, and Like if you're like it's terrible. Like their home was destroyed again, but they understand how their time with it was important, and your time with it in the game was important. And so it's everyone trying to just, save as much life as they can and like move on and like show again respect to it.
Yeah, and
it's a good game.
And it's like Lynn describes Earth as they left it at the beginning of the game. That planet was our cradle, and I think that we were in a state of infancy on Earth. I think Mira helped us to grow into something beyond that.
Absolutely. Perfectly said.
Yeah. Well, sir, is there anything that you would like to plug? Anything you got coming up that you're currently working on?
Oh, geez. So I don't have any like videos like exactly like, in the works about to come out, but I make videos on a channel called Cullen. I just put out a Silent Hill video a couple months ago that I think is pretty all right. I got more articles I write on Blue Sky. You can find me at Cullen Forever, which is where I'll always be yapping about the stuff I'm working on. I think right now I'm working on playing through a game called The 100 Line, Last Defense Academy, and I'm going to be writing a more detailed review for that. Besides that, I do my own podcast called Burnout Culture. It's pretty all right. It's pretty fun. We're pretty jaded, silly guys. I don't know, Wayne, you got anything you want to plug?
Well, here within the next week or two, I should be having my Digimon on the Game Boy Advance video out. And hopefully not too long after that. I would really like to try to get it done before too many games. I'll also be trying to get the Digimon World 4 video. It might also be coming out in July. We'll have to see how things shake down. But
great.
Well, thank you so much for joining me in this discussion, Cullen. I had a really good time with this.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. Again, I could yap about, oh my god, 3 hours. I could yap about Xenoblade that long. That's easy. That's nothing for a guy like me.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. I'll definitely have to have you on. Again, well, this is a bonus episode. There will be another, a full-length episode for later this month for Ram of the Rocks. I've got to get you on for a main episode at some point, just so people that don't want to specifically be spoiled on a brand new game for 3 hours can still hear us talk about stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to come back if you'd have me.
Alrighty, bud. Well, thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next mission.
Take care.